Morning again, everyone, on a Saturday, 7:10 KNUS. I'm Peter Boyles, back in the saddle. Saturday morning, October 18th, 2025, 7:10 KNUS Weather Center weather, 62. My motorcycle's outside. It was cold coming in. 62 the high tomorrow on Sunday, 76 degrees, and back to work Monday with some rain, 68 degrees. Before we start the show, here's the man. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, he gifted me yesterday, which is rare in all the, 30 years we've known one another. Mike Boyle is here. Hey, Mikey, good morning, and thanks for coming back up on the show.
Hey, good morning, Pete. Good to hear from you.
Pete,
I got to tell you something. You look absolutely magnificent. Ladies, when he rocks that Turning Point hoodie.
No, I brought it in because I had to layer up on the motorcycle this morning. So my all the way underneath shirt is an old 1035, the Fox Lewis and Floor Wax. I am now holding up my Turning Point shirt that's quilted. Now, why did you gift me with this? There he is. Why did you gift me with this, Mikey?
Well, Pete, truth be known, it was because it didn't fit me after I ordered it. But I suppose I should say it's just because I love you, man. I love what Charlie Kirk was doing and what his organization is doing. And so I ordered a bunch of the Turning Point swag, and I really loved that hoodie. But when I got it, it just didn't fit right. So we checked it out, and not only did it fit you, but Pete, I'm telling you what, you never looked better, buddy.
Well, we were talking about, you got those monkey arms. We talked about I'm talking to the doctor about boxing off air, and I met Jake LaMotta. He did the television show with me years ago, and talking about Jake. But there are guys that we when I tried to box, maybe that's a better way to say it, we would call them monkey arms. You got monkey arms. You got those real long arms. That's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah, and back in, I don't own a suit right now, but when I used to own suits, the 42 long wasn't long enough, and then the 44 had the big belly on it and so forth. So, yeah, just I have a gorgeous body, but it's a weird body. And so I just thought that I would give that on to my buddy Pete Boyles.
And thank you.
You know what?
Yes.
And I just want to, I felt so... I hate to get weird on you here. I don't want to get emotional, but the murder of Charlie Kirk really impacted me because you and I, Pete, are old, and we think we're pretty cool, and we think that we appeal to a younger audience and a younger crowd. But when you see somebody like him that motivated people, that could reach out to people with some pretty good values, it kind of bothered me. So I thought what I'm going to do is I'm going to support him. I made a donation to him, and I figured I'll wear the gear.
Well, we were just talking as we broke off with Caldera John, his show, and talking about radio. And there were people, who was Wolfman Jack. And I'm not taking anything away from Charlie Kirk. When Wolfman Jack went on the air, and I think you grew up. I know you grew up under Wolfman. Did you listen to the Wolf?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Loved listening to him. And you know what, folks? If you ever missed the movie American Graffiti, you ought to watch that because it was just, music is how we grew up, Pete. And you've been in it a lot longer than I have. But we can all remember who we were with when Danny and the Juniors were playing at the Hop. And we can all remember who we took to the high school prom and Kathy's Clown and all of that type of stuff with the Everly Brothers. So, you know what, when there's people that can reach young people, people have been complaining about the next generation since the beginning of time. And I just look around and I see these huge, huge events that he was doing. So,
Two add-ons. Mike Boyles with the Boyles Brothers radio morning show, but my mentor Bob Lee, and there was a place that opened here in town. It was called the Wharf. It was a disco, and they brought the Wolfman in for he was their grab. He was their opening act, and Bob knew him, and his name was Bob Smith. That was Wolfman's real name. and Pappy knew him, and he knew him from some border radio scams or something. So he said, "You want to meet Wolfman Jack?" I said, "Let's go."
Absolutely.
And when it's just me and you, I'll tell you, the American Graffiti Wolfman Jack. Well, that was a nice movie, but the real Wolfman, he was one of us, and so you got guys like that, and Rush Limbaugh is my other example. Don Imus, I give you a list of these guys, and every once in a while in this business, somebody comes along. Now, the business has been diminished. There's no question about that. But when he comes into the business and he's uneducated, he's the gift, and there aren't guys like him. And Rush is gone, and I said this kid's the new Rush Limbaugh, and I really thought, Limbaugh would have never gone out and taken on a crowd. He would have not done that, and this young man did, and that was really, really significant. And he was on his way. He could have gone past, and it's hard to know, but if you just know the history of radio in America, the guy that understood it was FDR. He understood radio. And he would do fireside chats. And the American people, that's one of the reasons why KOA is KOA, King of Agriculture, is FDR. And then radio comes into disc jockeys and then doesn't know what to do because FM has taken over AM, and so it goes to talk radio. Talk radio becomes the what we're watching live through now. But talk radio was taken over by people that really forced other people to get out of the business and or diminish the audiences. And the beginning of this week was somewhat of, you see some of that at KOA. They got rid of their morning anchor. Jerry Schimmel, who's a longtime great friend who will be with us next Saturday at 9 o'clock. Jerry's coming to do the show, or 9 in the morning. So you see this stuff, and he was a child of the radio business.
No.
Oh, he really was. And
I'm just laughing because Pete, I'm closer to 100 than I am to Charlie Kirk's age, but I enjoyed listening to him. I enjoyed the show. I enjoyed watching it. He's like Prager. You call Prager, and Prager will say, if you disagree with me, you go to the head of the line. And he would and I thought that it made, the stuff that he said made sense to me, but I think it made me better able to express those same thoughts. I've told Dennis Prager, I said, Dennis, it kind of ticks me off that everything I think, every philosophical point that I want to make, every political position I take, it comes out of your mouth so much more eloquently than it comes out of mine. And I think that it was the same thing with Charlie Kirk. I think I've enjoyed listening to some of the reruns, believe it or not.
But the point of it is, and Alan Berg is another one of those. He's the other side of the Charlie Kirk coin, and he was not known like Kirk. Charlie Kirk was syndicated. All the things that went with it. Alan was, by and large, a Denver product, a Colorado product, and made his bones here, and with a couple of exceptions, by and large, stayed here. And Kirk, with syndication, wow, and his ability to go out and do what Limbaugh could not do. And I'm a huge Rush fan. I tell everybody that everybody that's in this business should get down on their hands and knees because of what Rush Limbaugh did. Yeah, what Rush Limbaugh did. And my ex-wife used to say, get down on your hands and knees and thank Colorado for having the politicians they do that give you a radio show. But I'm serious. So now what we're watching now, there's a void. And plus, I mean, like I said, iHeart, that's the big giant, had terrible ratings, and it reflects on what they did here locally with maybe more to come. We lost 4 guys 2 weeks ago. So no, the business is being shattered, and it has been shattered by the whole idea of how they took a perfectly great product, talk radio, and they killed it, and they got sued, and then the people that got everybody in trouble just went away and vanished into the woods, leaving everybody else holding the bag. And so the business has to rebuild itself, but it has to get away from what the last 7 years have been. So having said that, but you're right. I mean, we lived as radio children. We were who we were. And
growing up, Pete, the first thing your parents, when they're getting your lunch ready for school, and Dad's getting your cup of coffee to get in the car and go off to work, what did they do? They turned on the radio.
Sure. We mentioned
there was no Good Morning America. There was none of that stuff. And that's where you got your information. That's where you got your news.
Yeah.
And, I'll tell you one thing, though, but I think that in terms of talk radio, guys like Charlie Kirk are a bright light. I'll tell you something. You don't want to be the football coach that follows Bear Bryant. You don't want to be the basketball coach that follows John Wooden. There'll be somebody that will fill Charlie Kirk's time slot, but whether or not they can fill their shoes, that's going to be a tough order.
But the same thing happened locally after Allen was murdered.
Yep.
They attempted to, and then there were people trying to knock him off, and there are people now that, they see themselves as the next Rush Limbaugh or whatever it is. It isn't going to happen. It didn't happen that way. There wasn't, it's like what you mentioned, but it goes deeper than that. And there's a whole physical / psychic part of this business that they missed out on, and the disc jockey guys, they knew it. The DJ guys knew it. The old AM top 40 jocks, the good ones knew it. And back to Imus or any of those guys, they knew stuff that. And I got to do Jean Benet stuff with Imus, and we ended up kind of like shirt tail friends, and we talked a lot. We like off the air. And he said, "Hey, we talked about me coming into New York." And I said, "Nah, family's here, that kind of thing." But Imus, one of the greats. And what do you do with all of that? I don't know. Yeah. Somebody will come along. And they always do.
Yeah. But I will say this. I am going to say, thank goodness for KNUS having a Monday through Friday morning show. Thank goodness for them having Caldera on Saturday morning. Thank God for them having you on from 9 to 1 o'clock on Saturday, because that just still gives it a little local feel. And there's a little bit of swimming upstream, but I think that radio has some value, and you see it when you go out and when you talk to people, Pete. They tell you that they appreciate that you're on the air. They appreciate the shows, the local shows. So, you know what? You and I can probably ride this horse into the sunset, but I think it's pretty neat that we still have at least some local radio.
Well, like I said, iHeart ruined everything that they touched, and no, I'm not making that up. They actually destroyed it. I'll tell you what, when we had a conversation with a group of friends yesterday, and what do you think on Fox Radio, when Lewis and Floorwax and all that stuff was going on? What do you think a 60-second commercial cost?
I have no idea.
A lot. What do you think it cost? What do you think it cost at Clear Channel today? A fifth?
Considerably less.
A fifth, that's right. And what do you think you paid for a 60-second spot on KOA when Berg was alive? You paid more for that spot than you pay for it now. Now,
when Mike Rosen was on the air.
What do you think you paid when Mikey was on?
Yeah.
What do you think you pay now?
Yeah.
And I can say it so that's really the indicator, because it's about money. Mm-hmm. And iHeart, I had a talk with just a brilliant broadcaster, and he said, "There's a wonderful salad. We've been eating this salad for years." And then they come in and say, "Well, we really don't need radishes, and we really don't need carrots, and we really don't need tomatoes." And now, do you want the salad? No. And so that's what's happened. So
well, and you see, and you know what, Pete, you do. You see it in the restaurant industry all the time. if one server can handle 4 tables, I'll bet you one server can handle 8 tables.
Sure.
It'll save us a little bit of money. We see it in the airline industry. You look back on the golden, I interviewed a flight attendant that had a great book out, and she said, I went to work in the 1970s, and we treated everybody like they were first class. By the time I retired 30 years later, we treated everybody like they were on a Greyhound bus.
Well,
and so, that's just the nature of
money.
things
No,
now.
Mike, excuse me. It's when the money guys got involved, when the venture
You
capitalists.
bet. You bet.
And they squeezed and squeezed.
Private
and
equity, all of those people, yeah.
And so
when I read that a restaurant group has been bought by a private equity firm, I say, okay, we'll see what
watch
happens.
this. Oh, yeah, sure. Mikey, watch.
Yeah.
And there's guys that now hold the franchises to the major sports teams here, the Rockies, and what goes on with the Nuggets and the Avs, and watch a lot of that. Watch what happens. That's going to be something because, they're going to be up for grabs, and their contractual arrangements that were back in another time, they're not going to be worth, powder and shot to blow them to hell. So watch, but it really is when the money guys got into it, they killed it. And they'll kill anything, money market people. That's like, we're going to talk about foreign policy here in a minute with 2 great guests. Soon as the multinational corporations showed up, foreign policy in this country just went sideways. And it's not going to change. So, anyhow, you got something you want to plug? Plus me too. Yeah.
Well, yeah, don't forget the restaurant show today, Saturday 3 to 5 and tomorrow 10 to noon, where we talk about restaurants, travel, movies, books, sports, or whatever I feel like talking about. And, Pete, we got a little far afield, but let's bring it right back. Let me just tell you something, Pete. You look absolutely fabulous. That's coming from a guy. You look absolutely fabulous in that Turning Point hoodie. You rock it, buddy, okay?
Thanks, Mikey. Be safe. Thank you. Mike Boyle. All right. Do you want to do a break here, Adam, before we do the guest? Okay. We got 3. Let me run it out so then we can start new when we come back on the other side. We have with us both physicians, Dr. Omar Mubarak and Dr. Reema has been with us, Wahdan. There now is the end or the Gaza ceasefire. And my question as we take the break and go into stuff is, okay, now what? And also, coming on the show, the book is entitled The First 30 Seconds, Active Shooter Problem, America's 4 Decades of Failure, What America Must Change to Minimize Victims. Ed Monk is going to be our guest, West Point graduate. And then I was listening to, KOA yesterday and Jimmy Sangenberger, and I'm a Jimmy fan. But I tell you what, I have just been fed up, and this has nothing to do with Jim because I think he's just an excellent young broadcaster. This stuff about saber rattling with China, Jesus. I mean, as soon as this country seems to get out of one war, it seems to find its way into another one. The Chinese, and I've listened now to talk radio, and I've listened to stuff on podcasting. It's like they get these people on, they saber rattle. We're at war with the Chinese. The Chinese need the United States of America as much as America needs the Chinese. Take a hold of your cell phone. I'm sitting here in front of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 screens and a big screen, 8 screens. Where do you think they were made? You think they were made in Saudi Arabia? Do you think they were made in Canada? They were made in China. And they have these giant factories. Now, Mao's problem, if you read Red Star Over China, Fan Chen, any of those books, Mao's problem was, I got to feed everybody. And his problem wasn't the Russians. It wasn't the United States of America, although, certainly America's backing Chang and everything that happened. But he had to feed people. And what do you think's going to happen if these people who are making flat screens right now, all of a sudden, there's a war? What happens? Everybody goes to hell. And just to even have the idea, and there are people writing, I got that right in front of me, honest to God, could the United States and China really go to war? Who would win? I thought, how absurd to even think about it. These are also people in the thermonuclear club, which, by the way, looking at the Middle East in the past, we know now that Saddam was not a member of that club. Thank you, George. Thank you, Dick. All right, there's the break. We'll come back with our guest and we'll talk. Now, what's next in the Gaza ceasefire? 710 KNUS. Morning, everybody. 710 KNUS, Saturday morning, the 18th of October, 2025. Good old 710 KNUS. And now the ceasefire has begun in Gaza and people asking questions about what's next. You got the mic lights? Welcome back into our studio, first of all. And I have two physicians here. Dr. Reema Wahdan is here. Good to have you back. And Dr. Omar Mubarak, who I do know, and through motorcycling, and he is also one of the, he's Palestinian. His parents were born in Middle East, and he grew up in the U.S., but to have both of these people here, I think it's going to be a remarkable hour and a half. Our phone lines will open in a second, 303-696-1971. So we're seeing these Palestinians walking north, and there's donkey carts and people walking, and the attention that's given seems to be elsewhere, but we can talk about that. But what happens next in the Gaza ceasefire plan? The hostages released. What begins to happen? First of all, welcome back. It's good to see you, Doctor. Go ahead. I mean, what's next? I don't believe this war is over by a long shot.
Yeah, I don't think it's over. I hope the peace holds, but even the Wall Street Journal in the last 48 hours reported that Israel continues to bomb Gazans. I think for President Trump's whole peace process to keep going forward, or for there to be real peace, the Palestinian people need justice. Yeah.
Well, we've been down this road.
Yeah,
Doctor. By the way, 303-696-1971. Your thoughts?
Definitely. The ceasefire, what now, is what we're looking at. And it gives a little bit of pausation for the people in Gaza to be able to recover bodies, to be able to get aid, to get food. I mean, we just sent in a milk distribution for the infants just last weekend. I mean, those are stuff that are basic human rights that should have been offered to Palestinians, but they've been denied that since March. And so what now is holding Israel accountable for its actions and moving forward with trying to stabilize the region where aid can really, that's the most important thing, is aid getting into the region.
Well, I read Al Jazeera online, the English version of Al Jazeera, and the Hamas spokesperson, I'm trying to put this out right, said, "You didn't beat us." And I thought to myself, it's precisely what history teaches. And this man is saying to Al Jazeera, we're here. And I was telling Dr. Mubarak, and I'm watching this, and I thought, Jake LaMotta standing there to Ray Robinson, and I was talking, it's a highlight, I had about an hour and a half sitting with Jake LaMotta, and I said, did you say to Ray, you didn't knock me down, Ray? And he lost a fight, but he's standing there going, I'm still here, Ray. And he said, yeah, I said that. And I went, wow. And all I could think of watching this Hamas spokesperson, and everybody was masked up and hooded up, but he said, we're still here. And that's what history teaches, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. So what happens next? Dr. Mubarak, what happens next?
Well, what I hope happens is that they start to move towards a two-state solution. I think that the international community is going to have to force that, as what we've seen over the past at least the last year, is that Israel became increasingly essentially isolated, to the point where the only country supporting Israel seems to be the United States. Everybody else is calling on Israel to stop all the killing and the genocide and the ethnic cleansing. And I think that maybe 4 years ago, I used to say, because of the settlements and the way they're built and the roadblocks and restrictions for the Palestinian people, that there would be no way to have a two-state solution. And I thought the two groups are going to have to come together and live in peace, and rather than having Israel be an apartheid nation, it's going to have to give the Palestinian people equal rights and governance. But after this war, I don't see how the two people can live together, and frankly, there has to be a two-state solution.
So this is the question for the audience, 303-696-1971. After 2 years of war, is there a chance that this deal will end the killing and the destruction in Gaza and return all of the hostages, living and dead, to their families? And is it an opportunity for peace, or do you believe it's simply going to the sidelines, taking a time out, which seems to be the position that I've listened to, and the Israelis know this as well. I mean, I think they did the bidding of our president. Do you believe that without Donald Trump's intervention, Mubarak, watching all these things, or Netanyahu, do you think they would have went, okay, this war is going to end? I don't, Dr. Mubarak.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Benjamin Netanyahu has a vested interest in keeping the war going constantly. And the reason is that if the war ends, he faces losing political power, which if you look over the past decade, or actually 16 years, the man has essentially become like a dictator. You can't get rid of him. And I don't know all of the nuances of parliamentary governance, but somehow he channels a small coalition of people, and because of that, it's hard to get him out. But if he loses power, not only does he lose power, which he's the man
faces charges.
He faces charges of
read
corruption. So literally, the man is vested in keeping the war going, or essentially what he was saying, making Israel like this Sparta state that's constantly at war, constantly fighting. And that's what he says.
About these saber rattlers now on China. But why? I don't understand that. We'll talk about it in open lines, but
I feel like that is always follow the money.
Well,
the saber rattlers, it's always about the money.
Absolutely.
So I need to sell guns, or I prosper through the sale of
war profiteering.
Yeah, it's war profiteering.
Of course it is.
And then we all get dragged into it, because if you look at the average human, they're not trying to steal, cheat, or they want to live their lives. They want their children to have better lives than they've had. But that's what happens, is exactly that. A small group of people need to make more money than anyone on the planet.
All right, I will read you a text. We have a phone call, 2 calls coming in. This is a text. After what happened in October, they, I'm sure means Palestinians, are lucky to get anything. Thoughts?
So, I mean, like, American taxpayers are sending over $14 billion of aid to Israel for weaponry, and only $9 million is of aid. And so when we say lucky, I mean, we're just trying to make it level so that there's an end to the war profiteering and the ongoing violence and the carte blanche, lack of accountability that the United States gives to Israel.
Understand and I know you do, the industrial complex.
Yeah.
And those kinds of loans are called 480s, and they just do a U-turn and come back and they buy American military products. I mean, that's the industrial complex. And they want
but it
that
can
war.
go better. It can be better where we can use that investment.
Better schmetter. They're making money.
I would take that response in a totally different way. The person said after October 7th, 2023. That person doesn't really understand the nature of what's gone on. That is a very simplistic view. That acts as if no Nakba occurred. And that person should go and read about the Nakba. So there is a village, just to put this in perspective, where they initially killed all of the adults in front of their children. Then they took all those children, 400 children, and they took them to East Jerusalem and dropped them off, so that those children would talk about the murders that occurred inside of Gaza. Look that up. Feel free. The person who texted that needs to understand that this conflict has been essentially a Nakba since 1948 with genocide and ethnic cleansing. You shouldn't look at things as these simple little microcosms. We need to understand that both sets of people are essentially attached to this land. They're attached to the land. They're not going anywhere. Just like you said with your analogy of the fighter. Yeah. They just dropped the equivalent of 4 nuclear bombs in ballistics on the Gazan people, and yet they're still there.
United States dropped more bombs on North Vietnam than all of World War II.
Right.
And I've said that on air. People, I didn't know. They look it up. Yep. They get mad to look it up, and they go, well, yeah, but United States pulls out. I mean, these are primitive people, and they bombed them, and they bombed them, and they bombed them, and how did it end? That's how it ended.
Yeah.
And
the Afghans.
Oh, that's worse.
Wars since the beginning of history and recorded history, and I agree. They still come back.
We were talking about the Bushes off air.
Yeah.
And the Bush involvement in all the Middle East is. All right, we got to go to the phones. Let's go to Charles in Fort Morgan. Charles, thank you for waiting. You're on a radio show Saturday morning. Good morning. Thank you.
Morning, Peter. I've been listening for years.
Thank you.
The way I look at it, and it goes clear back to Allenberg days, but the problem in Palestine and Israel, it goes back thousands of years, and all I can say is in 48, the Jews had to have some kind of homeland, and that's their historical homeland. And the Palestinians shouldn't have done what they did in October, and they basically got what they got because they did it.
Doctors?
Yeah, I disagree with that entirely. So my parents were from Ramallah, and they were, very, very peaceful young couple. They ended up getting married. But, my father has told me a dozen stories of some of the awfulness that's occurred there, sir. One city, the way they evacuated the people, the Palestinians, is they took a pregnant woman, they cut her from her xiphoid to her pubis, and then pulled the uterus out and cut the baby out and threw it in the middle of the street. And that was in order to get a whole bunch of Palestinians to leave the area. To some degree, I agree with you that there have been problems. Well, there have been problems, sure, for thousands of years. But really, the problem starts around 1948. There were people who were living there in peace. You got to really go read and look. And I'm not trying to be condescending at all to you, sir. I'm just saying there was peace when my dad was like a young boy, and there were Jews and Palestinians and Christians who were Palestinian, all living decently. I would say the British had terrible episodes with the people, but it's not accurate to say that it's all been going on for thousands of years. What I would say is that you could take the argument you just made and say, oh, well, let it keep on going forever and ever, but that's not the way it should be. What we should do is try to find a way that the sets of people can live in the region and we can all enjoy it and go to visit it in peace.
Charles, it's Peter. Do you believe that this ceasefire is anything remotely connected to permanent peace?
No, I think that they're going to keep attacking each other back and forth until something is finally settled. Yeah, and
no, you're out.
I don't know. I think it's a bad idea for the Palestinians to think that they're going to win somehow, because they're getting around with their ass kicked.
But I want to go back to understanding the context of where we are really right now, where we are on the backdrop of a genocide. And when we say tit for tat, the unbalanced and asymmetrical form of power that is played here has never been seen. Never have we had a country kill over 1,300 medical providers. Never did we see a country execute 200. These are UN membership. And then never did we see 250 journalists being killed. So when we say they were attacked, journalists weren't attacking, medical providers weren't attacking, humanitarian aid providers weren't attacking. So this is an asymmetrical form of power that Israel's been committing, and that we have to put the onus on the accountability so that justice and permanent peace can really set into the region. And going tit for tat, we can go back to the Genesis. That's not going to help. And I agree with the peace and stability in the region has not been there, but the people on the ground, Israelis and Palestinians collectively, want peace, are yearning for peace, and the people in play, the power from both sides, have not been able to allow permanent peace to settle in because they don't want it.
Charles, it's Peter. Your point, I think, is spot on. I got a minute. Israel launches the war in Gaza. The Hamas attack, 7 October 23, 1,200 people were killed, most, of course, Israeli citizens, and 251 were taken hostage. The offensive, 67,000 Palestinians, most of them civilians, 18,000 kids died. And
Yeah, well, do
you want to
do
you want to go on hold for a second, come back and continue the call? I got to take a break. You want to?
if you don't mind.
Sure. Throw them on hold. 710 KNUS. Does the ceasefire deal? Is it a major breakthrough? Is there going to be peace? We have two lines open: 303-696-1971. 62 the high today, 76 tomorrow. Stay here. 710 KNUS. Saturday morning, October 18th, 2025. We have one line open, 710 KNUS. 62 will be the high today, and then 76 Sunday. Dr. Omar Mubarak and and again, Reema Wahdan in studio. We have one line open, and the calls will go on. 710 KNUS. Danny Kaplis, and listen to Dan part-time this week. And Dan suggests you choose a lawyer who shares your values, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says so much about you to everybody involved in the case. Dan's just a good friend. He's a good man, son of a cop, and grew up in Chicago. We've talked about it, and he's the man. He's the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar jury verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Kaplis Law, the official law partner now of the Nuggets and the Avs. We've talked about that. Dan Kaplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases, accepting righteous injury cases on percentage fee basis, represents good people from all walks of life without regard of ability to pay. So if you need help, Dan Kaplis, give him truly just a call. 303-770-5551. 303-770-5551, or Dan Kaplis Law, CAPLIS Law.com. In studio, as I mentioned, we have our guests are Palestinians. We'll go back. This is Charles, who stayed through the break. I really appreciate it. Charles, back to you. It's yours.
Okay. First of all, Pete, I wanted to say thanks for all the ski trips in the past. Those are great.
You got
anyway. I think Palestine is more or less bit a bear in the ass, and I think if a politician's lips are moving, somebody's lying. And I also think that everybody in the United States probably should get ready, because China is on our door. That's what I think.
And I don't. I'm not the Chinese. I've been listening to saber rattling, and we go back in the last, 55, 60 years of this country's history, and foreign policy is dictated by people and that's how you walk into Vietnam, that's how you walk into what Bush and Cheney did, that's how you walk into all of these crazy things that were done, i.e. with American foreign policy. And it's a set aside from what we're talking about, but the model was there. And why? Ask yourself. And now the saber rattlers, I listened to one on KOA yesterday, they said openly, we're at war with China. That but you got to be cautious. I mean, we've heard that lie told so many times about so many regions of the world, like we're at war with Afghanistan. What the hell did they know about any? They didn't even know. I bet 9 out of 10 Afghanis don't even know where the World Trade Center was. They don't know.
I think the reason that was done was the World Trade Center Bank, and I think the gold was stolen out of the World Trade Center Bank.
Don't do that. There's so many people that died because of the insanity, and the Clintons had a chance, and the Bushes had a chance, could have ended all of this, and they didn't do it. So, anybody want to comment on what our caller said? Yeah.
So Charles, I just wanted to give you one piece of information. Since 1946, Israel has received over $300 billion. And today, as of today, they're still the country that receives the most foreign aid. I want you to think about that. And the reason is I want you to think when your health care gets denied, or when your kids don't get into college or they can't afford college, or when you're having trouble paying your mortgage, I want you to know that's where that money goes. That's your tax money going to hurt, kill, destroy, and for what? Do you care about Gaza and the West Bank? Are those your enemies? I don't think so. And so I think, just like Peter's saying, we can't just keep going towards endless wars. We can't just go from one to the next to the next. That's why we're broke as a nation.
And yet the Palestinians are building tunnels underneath hospitals and using hospitals as shields, and it goes two ways. You guys.
I don't think they would have to if we weren't involved in the way that we are. And I do actually think that, like a President Trump, because of his cult of personality, he is literally the kind of person who could, for the first time in generations, force a peace there. He could literally, confront a man like Benjamin Netanyahu, who, for lack of, there are many, most of the Jewish community in the United States doesn't even want Benjamin Netanyahu there anymore. That's been polled. So a man like President Trump could quite literally force peace there and make it so that that money stays home and helps people like you and me and gets our kids through college.
Trump is busy building hotels in Saudi Arabia.
I appreciate your time, man. Thanks for your call. You wanted to say something, Doctor?
No, just keeping accountability, like noted, where Trump is forcing Netanyahu to be like, you do not have allies in the international community. The UN was there. We've never seen it. That was unprecedented to see European leaders.
But for the audiences listening, we have said this earlier. Without Donald Trump, that would have.
Yeah, definitely. If Biden wasn't still in administration, this genocide would have been now in the hundreds of thousands.
No, Trump, he stepped in. We go here. This is Jay and Parker. You're on the radio show. Good morning.
Hey, Peter, you say that they're still standing. That you gave the boxing analogy that they're still standing. They're still here. My question is, at the end of World War II, were the Japanese and Germans still standing and still resisting?
Hold on. It's a totally different model. Hitler puts a bullet in his head, and the emperor tells the Japanese people, we're quitting. But what we do know from historians like John Toland and so many others, they would have died. They would have died. The women would have died. The little children would have died. They'd have given their lives for that emperor. And I'm not a Hirohito fan, but when he threw in the towel, you have a people that went, excuse me, okay, the war's over. Hitler puts a bullet in his head. The entire occupation of the Red Army, and by the way, there were people called the werewolves, and the werewolves were going to try and keep a war going. That lasted about 15 minutes, and the German population gave them in and said they're over here. So they're totally different models. Germans, and I've heard this stupid argument, historically the setups are way different. This setup is more like, I don't know, the Southeast Asia or more perhaps like Algeria. They're models, and history is not a liar.
Well, also, you're saying when the Emperor of Japan said that's enough.
Yep.
Maybe there needs to be a leader in Gaza to say that's enough.
Maybe's way different than what you're saying. Why? I'm telling you the difference between the end of the Second World War and, matter of fact, the surrender that came in Italy was an interesting surrender. But I don't know what you're doing in the background there. But all right, you doctors.
You're not entirely wrong. And I wish Hamas would throw down and just immediately get rid of the weapons and give up. I also wish Netanyahu's severely right-wing, the most right-wing government in Israeli history, I wish that they would all get thrown out too. You're talking about a man who currently the ICC has accused of war crimes, and he needs to be held accountable for that.
Both governments on both factions have definitely instigated and have created such far barriers. But when we look at the civilian population, both Israeli and Palestinian alike, there is a movement toward collective unification. But the governments don't want that. And so when we sit there and fight for human rights and justice, we're fighting it for both parties. And if we keep on pinpointing who's right,
I'm under a minute. Jay, do you want to stay and continue on the other side of the break, or you want to go?
I'm gonna go. I just want to know real quick why the Hamas is executing people now, other Palestinians now on the street.
How about if these guys answer that after the break? All right. There's one line open, 303-696-1971. Omar Mubarak, and of course, back Reema Wahdan is with us. I'm Peter Boyles. This is 710 KNUS. better believe it. Good morning again, second hour, Saturday, October 18th, 2025. Lines are jammed. 710 KNUS. I'm Peter Boyles. 62 the high today, 76 tomorrow, and back to work Monday, rain and 68 degrees. The issue is the ceasefire. And the ceasefire and the hostage deal between Israel and Hamas, and all of this, we were talking, is probably would have never happened without the influence of Donald Trump. But again, what is taking place? The ceasefire deal, will it hold? 2-year war? Will Israel and Hamas take this chance and end this war? In studio, and we know both of these folks. They're both physicians. In fact, Dr. Mubarak is a surgeon, and the return of Dr. Reema Wahdan and Dr. Omar Mubarak. And our lines are jammed. And coming up later, new book on the market called First 30 Seconds, The Active Shooter Problem, America's 4 Decades of Failure to Adapt. And I'd like to sneak some open lines in. So we begin with Chad in Greeley. Brother, you waited the longest. Thank you very much, and you're on the air.
Good morning, gentlemen. You know, Peter, your guest a while back said, focus on when you can't make your mortgage payments, how much money we're giving to Israel. Those two things have nothing in common. The buyer of the house knows how much they paid for the house, what their interest rates will be, and what their payments will be. Stuff like that.
Did you? Who said it? Because
I did. Dr. Mubarak, how are you?
Well, he's calling. He's saying it doesn't affect him.
I disagree. So if
Chad, hang on. Chad, let him answer.
If $300 billion of U.S. money goes out and your tax money goes out, then you lose out on many things. You lose health care.
That has nothing to do. That has nothing to do with people's mortgage.
Do you know if a settler moves into the region near the West Bank, they get free housing? How do you think they pay for that?
But that has nothing to do with the people's mortgage here.
I think what you look at, Chad, it's Peter, is go back in time and look at what Eisenhower warned everybody about, the military-industrial complex, which is, I think, more significant to talk about, is the amount of money that taxpayer money. I'll give you a better example. When Barack Obama was president and the Iranians wanted to renew all their weaponry, they wanted all new. They had not been able to get many or much weaponry. So the military-industrial complex goes to the Obama administration and says, "Look, if we don't have the right to sell to them, they're going to get it from the British, they're going to get it from the French, and principally they're going to get it from the Germans. So we'd like you to take this part out of it." And so they do. And of course they have the meeting in Paris, and they had the Americans at hello, and the United States had held a lot of Iranian money back to Jimmy Carter in the time of the Shah. And they have all this money, so that money then goes to General Dynamics and all of those multinational arms dealers. That money goes, they say had to give the money back to the Iranians. No, they didn't. They gave the money along with loan money. And the interesting thing is, when you study this, they sold the military weaponry to beat out all the other multinationals. So the United States, the money that Jimmy Carter held, now is gone, and you do whatever you want to with that. The other part of it is they got the weapons. And the United States of America, I don't know if it's the largest arms dealer in the world, but it plays the game very, very well. And it's foreign policy loans, and they have a dictate in it. The oil part of all of this, the multinational oil companies, they have a say-so in this. I mean, I think the doctor slipped up, but the principle remains the same when there's money at stake. And like we talked.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
Hear me out. It's
sure.
Like we're out east here, and I watch the Capitol pour in from the Front Range out east, and I believe the same thing is happening there. To when it's like you have Egypt, you have the sea right there. All that, Gaza will probably get gobbled up, and there will be resorts there, and none of the poor, they're going to kick the poor people out, and it will be like, it's going to be a resort town. I believe all, and I would love for your guys' input, because following the money, that's how the stuff got squashed. That's pretty valuable real estate.
I think that's great. There's a part of that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Doctor.
We're working with we're banking the international community is going to step forward and literally restore the buildings that have been lost. Because if we leave it to Israeli-United States partnership, it'll turn into Riviera. That's what Trump wants. And that's what's been said. But I think that the pressure from the international community, as well as the U.S. leadership, of really maintaining this leadership into this path for peace, that's what we're looking for, to be able to restore the region, rebuild. I mean, we're looking at an area that's no big than 24 by 6 miles. It's very small, but it's the most densely populated area in the world, with 2 million people that have been forcibly displaced. So what do you do with the people that are displaced? Because the Palestinians don't want to go to Egypt. They don't want to go to Jordan. They want to live in their own sovereign land. And if we're going to say peace is on the table, you can't forcibly dispel people, ethnically cleanse them from the land, and then go, peace. That makes no sense.
It's also a violation of international law.
But what's interesting, I'll go back to what the caller said, and the plan for the hotels goes back quite a while. And the idea of building principally for the Arab world, who by and large likes to go to different places, and when they really want to blow it up, they go to Vegas, but they go to London. That power structure, that money, and an Israeli, Israeli historian, and that Trump model of building the hotels, which I thought was a pretty good idea, creating jobs. And this is before this last October. But this guy had a great line, and he said, remember this: the Palestinians will never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity, which I thought was an interesting line. It may hold up. But now, you're right about Donald Trump wanting to build hotels. And is that a bad idea? I don't know. You're looking at me like it is a bad idea.
It's a bad idea, yeah, because you're forcibly dispelling these people from the land. I mean, you're having kids go from the north of Gaza to the south of Gaza, to the east, to the west, to the, go in. I mean, this is crazy that you have 1 million kids that are been out of school till now, and that they don't have, there's not a single university there. Only one medical facility in the entire region. All 30 have been decimated. And we're talking about hotels. Like it's like nonsense. Like, it's really comical to a point, but it's not, because it's off the backs of these people that have literally lost their family members. 70,000 dead, and people talking about a Riviera just makes it like, it's
the idea though comes from years ago. I mean, it doesn't come, but it's come back again, and I saw it in some of the verbiage. Back to Chad. Chad, you want a final comment?
It's been a pleasure talking to you guys. Keep up the good work. But, international money, it absolutely blows my mind how the money can pour in from all over the world to find to find the best investment. So it'll be interesting to see how time sorts this out.
Thanks for a good time, man. Thank you. All right. We will go to, I think he's next, Roberto. In Arvada. Roberto, you're on the radio show Saturday morning. Thank you.
Hello, Peter.
Hey, brother.
Long-time listener.
Glad you called.
I agree with some of what's been said, that Israeli citizens, and even more so the Palestinian citizens, just want peace. And especially the Palestinians are victims, or a better way to put it, are pawns in all of this. And, in my world, I can never let anything rest until I try to understand the root cause of a problem. And I've studied and dug and dug and dug. And here's what I think needs to be considered in this kind of a conversation. And that is, what caused Hamas to want to perpetrate this on October 7th, 2 years ago. And I think the conversation cannot really make any sense unless you factor in Iran. And Hamas is a military arm of Iran, and Iran buys them, funds them, trains them, and calls the shots.
All right.
And so what did Iran? They're not stupid. They can game plan this out. They have war rooms. They knew what was going to happen. What did they attempt to accomplish by pulling off this attack?
This is Peter. Let me shoot
carried
into,
out by Hamas.
Let me shoot it. It's again, there are these mottos of history that repeat and repeat, repeat and repeat. And one of the more principal ones is the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And that relationship before the fools got rid of Saddam, that used to be the Saudi Arabians. I mean, and it used to be this guy, used to be that guy. The story of history rolls, but as I've tried to attempt to say many times, there's only X amount of themes. There, I mean, if you go back and really study history or the philosophy of history or the knowledge of history, and I get it down to the themes would be Old Testament, in the Quran, in the Torah, Greek tragedies, Greek comedies, Shakespeare, and then we would kind of run out. That's it, and it's it's repetitive. An example of the Peloponnesian Wars or Vietnam, and it goes on and on and on. So what you're saying is absolutely right. But if you go back and look, who gives to who, historically, is it's a theme of history, and we played it out. And they played it out on us. What do you? I don't know.
I totally agree.
I don't believe in violence at all. So just to make sure we're on that same page, but I do think the reason why Hamas took that moment, if I was just to look and take a guess, is they were about to normalize relations between Saudi Arabia and Israel. And I think
absolutely,
yeah. And so what I think was going through the calculation that went through the Hamas leadership in Gaza in particular was they were like, well, if that happens and more Gulf countries normalize relations, they're going to forget our whole cause.
But then I appreciate the callers.
No, I think there's more to that. Actually, I just want to say the real game in the play in the game is that if normalized relationships between Saudi Arabia and Israel occur, then that changes the balance of power in the Middle East.
Absolutely.
Of which Iran had been dominant, and they see this eroding away. And the biggest piece on the chessboard is Saudi Arabia.
You bet.
And if Saudi Arabia becomes aligned with or friendly in any way with Israel, that marginalizes Iran. And Iran was willing to create this war in order to make Israel an unacceptable partner to the Middle East.
Yeah,
and so Iran has sacrificed and made pawns of their own, of the Palestinians, in order to save their own power, and that's what has happened.
Doctor,
but I just want to interject because I appreciate you trying to understand the root cause of this, but you also have to take it back a couple years, and we don't have to go far. I'm not going back centuries, but the borders on Gaza have been controlled by the state of Israel. So food, water, aid, you name it, was being controlled. And so when you have a group of people landlocked, and we're talking about 2 million people landlocked from the sea to all surrounding borders, and going through, this is their words, not mine, but they're saying that we are an open cell prison, a concentration camp. We are suffocating to the hands of the state of Israel. And so we can't say that, this magical day 1, 2, 3 happened. You really got to understand the context before and how the Gazans were living in their area. And they jam-pack the Palestinians in the area. They forcibly displaced them from all Palestinian cities. As a settlement would come in and illegally take a Palestinian city, all those residents will be forced either into Jordan or they'll be forced into Gaza. And so you have that, powder keg occurring at the same time. And where do you think 2 million people with no place to move, no place to go, and how they would respond? It's like if you put a dog in a little cage and you force them to be starved and deny them water. Do you think the dog's going to bite and react? I mean, this is.
Can I comment on that?
Yeah.
So I agree that, again, it's a horrible situation, and I have total sympathy for the Palestinian people. But you have to say, again, what was the reason for this wall, or this prison wall, as you put it, that has been put around the Gaza territory? And it's because the Israelis know if they don't control that border, that weapons will just be flooding in from Iran, and they're trying to control that. Because over all of this time, for decades,
but it's
Hamas lodges bombs into Israel ad hominem.
I had a moment with a guy, and when I was in Lebanon, and there was so much change that was taking place, and it really goes back to the godfather of much of what takes place in terms of terrorism as a hero in Ireland by the name of Michael Collins, and I'm a big Michael Collins fan. And Michael Collins, did this whole thing where they would kneecap and they would do different things. They would bomb mailboxes. They were after the 17 Easter Rebellion. You've got to go back and read that as a model. Now, Michael Collins was a terrorist to Winston Churchill and the British. But in Ireland, with the Irish Catholics, he was a hero. And that's when that came to me that one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. And so when people do these things, go back to the Tet Offensive in February of 1968 in Vietnam. And it ended the VC. The VC were pretty much over after that. Then it's the NVA. But they went into Hue and these cities, and they found hundreds of bodies that the North Vietnamese killed these people and buried them, and they went into villages, and they did, in many ways, what was done October the 3rd. And to October 7th, I'm sorry, and to what people look at, who's the terrorist and then who's the freedom fighter. And I'm trying to be like this neutral historian, history buff. I'm certainly not a historian. But when you see that model play out and you understand that the role that the Saudis play in all of this, and that's how oil was power. And I sound like I'm blowing off here, but the last time I was in the UAE, it's the last time I was in the Middle East, and everybody's either a prince or a sheikh or something, but I became friends with a guy that he had his bodyguards with him, and he would always, he took me to dinner, and I finally said to him, I said, "What are you afraid of?" And he pointed across the water and he said, $40 a barrel and them. Who was them? The Iranians. That's who them were. I got to jump. I love to call everybody, hang on, but he didn't say Israel. He wasn't afraid of Israel, wasn't afraid of the U.S. He was afraid of the Iranians and cheap oil, and that was his fear. We're coming back. Great guests on a Saturday morning, 710 KNUS. It is, and we are, and good morning, everyone. Saturday, the 18th of October, 2025, coming up. First 30 seconds. Active shooter problem in America's 4 decades. A failure to adapt. Ed Monk, Lieutenant Colonel Ed Monk, U.S. Army, will be our guest on the show, and then I want to try and sneak some open lines in as well. I'm happy today to talk to you about my friends at Water Pros, and Water Pros cares about the quality of your water. You can remove forever chemicals and microplastics and hard water with Water Pros. We have the system, and it really is something special. And they came to my house, as they will to yours, and you start this process. You go to waterpros.net, and you sign up for your free, the F word, free in-home consultation. And they come to your home, and they test your water and answer all the questions and concerns about your water. And they'll show you the results. And then, you make up your mind. These are great guys. Water Pros, family-owned, veteran-owned business, dedicated to providing you the best in water treatment for less than the other guys. Go to waterpros.net today and request your free water test. It's crazy not to do it. It's free. 303-862-5554, 303-862-5554. Ask for my special, Peter Boyle's special, 303-862-5554. Our guest in studio, Dr. Omar Mubarak and Dr. Reema Wahdan. We're talking about the ceasefire now in Gaza. Let's go to James in Golden. James, you waited. Appreciate it. Good morning. You're on the show.
Yeah, so I called in initially to respond to the guy, or to these guys bringing up the fact that Israel's gotten $300 billion worth of funds over the years, primarily for defense, but also for development. And what that buys is Omaha Beach for the Western world. So this goes back to Christopher Columbus and why he sailed west. Just before Christopher Columbus sailed, the Christians had reconquered Spain. That was the original Reconquista, reconquered Spain over the Moors. But just before that, about 40 years previous, Constantinople had fallen to the Ottoman Empire. And the Ottomans had taken control of the Silk Road and were taxing the hell out of it. So the Portuguese were going around Africa. The Spanish decided, we can pay this crazy Italian and see if he can sail straight west to hit China, so we can avoid paying the crazy taxes the Ottomans want us to pay. The United States, the Americas, were settled by the Europeans largely as a way to avoid ridiculous taxes by the Islamic world. And that's why we're here. And we will spend that money to pay for Israel so that we have a foothold and don't have to fight another Omaha Beach if another massive war starts with the Islamic world. The hope is that the Islamic world will stop being an insolent teenage angry boy and will grow up and become a man someday, and will stop trying to fight everybody.
And so
that's the hope.
Hang on.
And Mohammed bin Salman may be the very beginning of this, being economically pragmatic the way he is.
Rick, you in your historic model, you're missing, I think, something significant, and that's the crusade. And when the Crusades were ugly and aggravating. No. Don't please. Let me talk.
In both directions, it was bad.
Let me talk for 2 minutes, okay? So
go ahead.
The clash between, and by the way, Islam is a Western religion. It's a monotheistic religion. But the clash between cultures, and principally it's a religious battle, far more than it is how it was described. And the invasion of when the Ottomans come into Spain, they get as far as what modern Austria. They're at the gates. That's why crescent rolls are crescent rolls. I don't know if you've ever read the history of that, but
right.
It marks these different things. But the give and take of the world.
If you really want to take it back, you can take it back to a woman and her illegitimate son being left out in the middle of the desert by Abraham. Okay?
No,
if you want to go back that far.
I thought the kid was legitimate because Hagar gave the green light. Sarah gave the green.
So you knew exactly what I was talking about when I brought that up. If you want to go that far back is the point.
But I want to do that one with you because in the Islamic world, and I've read Islam and been around people, teachers, God said to Abraham, kill me a son, right? And so the notion is the firstborn. Now, I don't want the argument, but the firstborn, Hagar's firstborn was
Ishmael.
Ishmael. And that's and that leads to Muhammad. On the other hand, Abraham, the Western faith of Judaism and Christianity believe what? That it is Isaac. And
it is the firstborn to the legitimate wife.
No,
but
she comes back and she's barren, quote unquote.
Yes.
And the miracle happens, she's pregnant, and
which is why Jesus had to be born to a woman that was not just barren, but did not even have intercourse. It was a greater miracle than Sarah. Yes.
But Pete,
you jumped something. You jumped thousands of years when you said it leads to Muhammad. So the Islamic world were a peoples before they were a religion.
But the point of this is that, and it gets into those arguments when somebody screams you're anti-Semite, you're an anti-Semite. Well,
you're right about that. Yes,
they're all Semites.
They're all genetically.
Yes.
And genetic testing has demonstrated they're all very, very closely related to each other. And the hope is peace. Okay, but this is what we have, Pete. This is what we have. The Jewish people and their claims are the old man, weak and tired and failing. And the middle-aged man is Christianity, who has fought his fight against the old man, beat his father up and left the house and has come back. Islam is just leaving the teenage boy fighthood state and hopefully will grow up to be a man that will join and work with
slow down again.
Their elders in the future.
Slow down again, then explain Christian Palestinians. I mean, explain, if this is not a clash of religion.
Leftovers.
No, not really.
Christian Palestinians. Yeah, no, they're leftovers. I mean, so ask your guest this.
You can ask them.
Could the people of Gaza move into the West Bank? And I don't mean just a displacement, but could they live with those people? You said that Israel controls all the borders. Yeah, that was a falsehood. Hold it. That was a falsehood. Egypt controls the southern border of Gaza. What if we took all the Gazans and moved them into the West Bank and took all the Israeli West Bank settlers and put them in Gaza? Would the Gaza people be able to live with the West Bank people? The answer is no.
Let her answer.
Let me just Palestinians, regardless of Gaza, my city's from El Bire. We are all Palestinians. That's like first and foremost. Second, sir, this has nothing to do with religion when we're talking about Palestine and Israel. This is not a religious war. There's people that want to make it a religious war, but it is not. And we're talking about statehood and power and occupation, apartheid, ethnic cleansing. Those are the things. But I want you to look at the map. Please, go on, Google it, look at what the West Bank looks like. It is now decimated into a Swiss cheese. So if you have a whole block of cheese and you have these little holes that are not connected with one another, that is the West.
Let her answer you. Let her answer.
So we have little Swiss holes in the Swiss cheese. That is the West Bank. You cannot have a sovereign nation without defined borders. In the West Bank, as it's in its current form, with all the illegal settlements around it, currently stands with no permanent border. It is Swiss cheese in and of itself. So when we're taking Gazans, Palestinians from Gaza, putting them into the West Bank, they wouldn't be objecting to it. But what we're trying to do is now more land being taken from the Palestinians. We are already sitting on Swiss cheese islands in the West Bank, and I would just encourage you to look at the map. And then, what then? How do we forcibly bring in 2 million people?
But you're not answering my question. Could you take the people of Gaza and move them into the West Bank? And the answer is no, because they're actually two different people.
No, they're not two people. They're Palestinians.
The people of Gaza, of Gaza are rejecting Egyptians.
Listen
to
me.
The people of the West Bank are rejecting
you got to let them respond to you, man. Hang on.
No,
she's not responding.
I
asked a question. She's not responding.
Yeah, let me try and hit it on the head. No, they're the same people. Yeah. No, they very much view each other as the same people.
Yep.
Gaza could be moved into the West Bank.
But I'm telling
we
you,
don't
realistically,
want it to.
yeah,
What we
realistically.
want to do is have a
So here, I'll
country.
take it for
But then you
Colorado.
Too much. Too many voices. Too many voices.
You could close all the settlements. Right. You could close all the settlements. You wouldn't have the Gazans being resort slaves, if it's just to summarize that part of the discussion, and then the Palestine could be one continuous territory.
Rick, this is Peter. Or James? I'm sorry, I'm looking at the other guy's name. James, I apologize. Do you think for a second that either way, anytime, any place, anywhere, that this ceasefire, which is precisely what it is, it's not peace, it's a ceasefire. You think it holds?
No, not of course not. Come on.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Okay, so and the reason it won't hold is one side will irritate the other, and they'll start going at each other again. But at the same time, you need to be honest about how this went before 1948. Okay, and I'm talking about the modern era now. When Israel was formed, Palestine was formed by the UN at the same time. There was a Palestinian state that the UN declared. And the Palestinian people, listen to the Arab people, listen to the Arabs who said, we got all the Jews in one spot now, because the Jews throughout the Arab world were kicked out of the Arab world, except for Iran. They were kicked out of Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait, that whole region. They were kicked out. They were shoved into Israel to be killed. And the Arab people told the Palestinians, kill the Jews in Israel, and you can have the whole thing.
James, hang on. You got to go back to the creation. You got to go back to Herzl and before the turn of the 19th century, and go back.
You need to go back to Neanderthals, because that region. That region is important. That region is the birthplace of what we know as Homo sapiens.
No, it's further south, but it's okay. What I'm saying to you is, understand, and I'm sure you do, the creation, and then this moment comes where God becomes a real estate agent, and of all people, of all people, is the UN. How much do you? I mean, suddenly, but you go back to the real nuts and bolts. Harry Truman's first, Joseph Stalin's second. They're so ashamed. Maybe Harry Truman's a little bit more ashamed of what they were, what happened, and the Holocaust.
That's one view. The view of many of the Orthodox people in Judaism is that they wanted to concentrate them into one place so they could be finished off.
No, that's not true either. The Orthodox don't even recognize.
No,
yes,
the
many of them don't. That's correct.
No, they don't. Hang on again a second. Go ahead.
But I'm like, I mean, when we I'm not a historian buff, but I know there's been a lot of misunderstandings that have been really pushed into here. But what it really does go, it is 1900s. There was a Palestinian statehood. It was there. We have coins. We have currency from 1900s, and before 1850s is the earliest of that. There was a government. So whether or not the United States or the UN came in 1948 to recognize the state of Israel has no precedence, because there was a state there, and for a letter to take precedence of that. So if someone came to the United States and said, I have a letter from the state of United Kingdom that says this is now the possession of Uganda, all of us will be up in uproar. There is no place in precedence that would ever happen. But then for everybody to now take 1948 as truth and fact and move forward doesn't hold weight in the historical sense. Yeah,
that's the give and take. There was this after hang on. After Yalta, and this is stuff people don't read. After Yalta, FDR has a meeting with Saudi royalty, and that's that story where they come on the ship, they bring in their poison testers and goats and everything, and they have this moment, and through interpreters, and FDR says, there are no Jews left in Poland, because he's setting the stage for what's going to happen next. And the royalty looked at FDR and said, well, why not give them Poland? In other words, the searching for the place. And it's such a tragic story. Yeah. And there's no, unless there's something happen. And I love your call, man. You're a smart man. I don't know, James. I mean, I don't know the outcard. Do you? I give you got a
Yep.
minute. And I got to take a break.
Again, I and many people hope it's Mohammed bin Salman and his pragmatic economic approach.
Maybe.
Maybe Islam will grow up and be an adult someday.
Maybe
that's
you
the
know
hope.
that you keep saying that, and I
It's
feel
the
like
youngest of the three. It's the youngest of the three.
It means nothing.
I got
And it
you, but
behaves like-
it's
it behaves like
it
a
reeks of
presidential
Too many
reeks of
talk.
imperialism.
Doctor, go ahead.
It reeks of imperialism, sir. To essentially take a whole, and by the way, I am not religious at all. That is the comedic thing, but to take.
You're
to
talking. Too many people talk. I got to do that. Go ahead.
to speak that way is reeks of imperialism. You should definitely do some soul searching when you're. And I don't mean to belittle you in any way, sir, but I would definitely do some soul searching and look at how people learn from each other before you make that statement over and over again.
Doctor, final comment. We got to take a turn.
The same thing. I mean, I really want to take the religion out of this because it has no context and bearing. Because just because people live and have a religious identity in the region doesn't mean that takes.
But there are people that need that to be part of the argument.
Yeah.
We're coming right back, everyone. Saturday morning, October 18th. I'm Peter Boyle, 710 KNUS. All right, it's 10:44, 16 minutes before the hour, and then the new book out, First 30 Seconds, The Active Shooter Problem, America's 4 Decades of Failure to Adapt. 710 KNUS, I'm Peter Boyles. Good morning. 62 will be the high, and 76 tomorrow, 68 on Monday. Our guests in studio are Palestinians. They're both physicians, Dr. Omar Mubarak and Dr. Reema Wahdan. Back to the phones we go. This is Rick in Centennial. Thank you, Rick. You waited, man. I appreciate it. You're on the show.
Well, I appreciate your show, Peter. And I also want to say I appreciate your guests. I've listened to them before. I've never called in before. But this time I have to call in. And I'm going to address Dr. Mubarak because he's the one that made 2 claims that I can't find documentation on the internet. The first claim was 400 Palestinian children were forced to watch the murder of their parents.
All right, let's stop. Let's go exchange from that, and then I'll go right back to you. Doctor, you said that.
Yes. The city is Deir Yassin, D-E-I-R.
Okay, hang on. Can I put you on speaker?
Wait a minute. Yeah,
can I put you on speaker so I can type?
Sure.
Yes.
Thank you. Just a moment.
All right. Yep. You there?
Okay.
All right.
That's on speaker.
All right, you got
what I want to do,
I'm going to
go on the internet right now.
Okay, fine.
I
Great.
just want to find this.
All right,
Yes.
Okay,
hang on.
how do
Rick,
I spell
Rick.
it, please?
All right, Rick. Whoa. Because speaker and talk radio is really strange. You're the one guy.
I can't. Okay, never mind.
No, don't.
I apologize.
No. I want you to do it. Go back on your speakerphone, and because this is an important call. So throw yourself back up on speaker, okay? You back
Thank
up?
you, sir. Just a moment.
All right, and you're at the keyboard. And,
Okay, I'm on.
All right.
How do I find it?
All right, Doctor, go ahead.
Yeah, so the city is Deir Yassin. If you can Wikipedia it. The massacre occurred around 1948.
And
there's a documentary
what do I
on
look
it.
at?
All right. What does he look at?
Sure.
I would go to the documentary. It's called Deir Yassin, The Agony.
Can you please spell Deir Yassin?
Yes, D-E-I-R.
Okay.
Y-A.
D-E-I-R, yeah.
Space. So D-E-I-R space. Y-A-S-S-I-N.
I-A-S-S-I-N. Okay,
Y.
and then what?
Now
Y.
listen, one more time, Rick. Doctor, if you would.
So let's go through it again. D-E-I-R space Y-A-S-S-I-N. The Agony.
Okay.
You'll see a documentary
Google it right
there.
now.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll
shoot.
see a
I'm going to Google
documentary
it right
there.
now.
Round the clock. Shoot. Go ahead.
It actually led to a woman, I don't remember her name, but many of those children, she created a orphanage in Jerusalem for them.
Did it turn up for you, Rick?
Okay.
You got it?
Yeah, I got it. I'm online right now. I'm going to get off the phone. I'm going to get off the speaker.
Okay.
One more
All right.
to ask you about. And I want to say unequivocally, when you said that journalists and aid workers have been killed, that's documented. That's easy to find.
It's easy to find.
I couldn't find any of this. So now I understand. Okay, I get it. That's and it looks terrible.
So, by the way, there are also many, many more massacres and documented horrific events since 1948. If you really you don't even have to work hard at it, my friend. There was a Jewish documentary. A Jewish guy decided to contact soldiers who helped get people out, essentially force people out of portions near Gaza. And watching that documentary is just horrific. I mean, these men one man brags about raping a woman. They talk about using flamethrowers to burn people, and they're laughing about it as if it was just spectacular.
And this is a documentary film?
Yeah, it's a documentary film that I've seen. I'd have to look that one.
There's another city that was really well known, 1982 in Lebanon and in Palestine. Sabra Shatila is the city. That
I'm familiar with, 100%. I know about it.
So there's several atrocities where this is just ongoing this is how occupation takes its full force, brutal force of going city by city, complete decimation of a neighborhood and literally using body parts. The reason why we see ongoing footage of Palestinians, of parents picking up body parts from the rubble is because they want people to have fear tactic and move out of regions. If I may,
back to you, Rick. Do you believe that this ceasefire will hold?
Absolutely not.
Why?
Okay. First of all, I had explained to Adam I wasn't going to get into this, but
go ahead.
I got to get into a little bit. I've been in 2 countries with civil war. One of the countries, I'm not going to tell you which countries because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
Do it quick.
But in 2005 and 2006, I was in a civil war for 2 years. Okay? I've seen all kinds of crap.
What was your job?
No, I'm not going to tell you where it was.
All right.
Okay? Because I don't want to get... I don't want anybody else calling in.
Go
okay?
ahead. Go ahead.
All right. Okay. And during that time, anytime there's a war, somebody's making money.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was helping somebody make money.
Sure.
I wasn't killing anybody. So I want to be clear on that. But there's always money to be made. So I've seen that piece of it. I have. Okay. But the other piece, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, do it quick because I'm close to the end of the segment. So
no sweat, Peter. I'm getting off the phone.
Thank you.
You answered my question.
All right.
Thank you so much. I wish you a pleasant day.
Thank
Bye.
you, sir. All right. It is 10:51. How much time we have, Adam? 3 minutes. We have 3 minutes. So, Doctor, you go first. Doctor, I got Doctor quick. Dr. Wahdan, you go first. Will this hold? If not, or if, why?
I mean, I just hope that there is a pausation to allow accountability, allow food and aid to go in. I hope there's a reversal of the visas, medical visas, so we can bring children back into the United States to provide medical support with. I don't know. I know that it's not going to last long, but in the meanwhile, we really appreciate the pausation so that they can live and get access to water and
You
food.
see those Palestinians going north.
Yeah.
And donkeys are pulling the back of an old Jeep or something, and people are walking. You think, what's going to happen to them? What happens to the 10-year-old boys who have survived this when they become? Dr. Mubarak, thanks for coming on the show. Your last thoughts of all of this.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to hold either. I'll be honest, but I agree with Dr. Wahdan. I want to see that normal basic human supplies get there. Food, medical supplies, the ability for the people to recover somewhat. But I do hope that the international community steps in and that the world continues to isolate Israel or the Israeli government so that it pushes them to eventually come to the table and say, we need to just end this. We need to get some sort of a normal land for the Palestinian people and come to a peace process.
What I thought was interesting, because they use the UN 1948, and so in the UN, they were voting to grant the Palestinians a state, and the Israelis walked out.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, as a just an observer, it was good on this end, but you can't recognize the UN on this end, which would teach any of us what the UN is worth or not worth. But they were going to recognize the Palestinians, and the Israelis walked out. And I said, that's the creation of the state. It's good to have you both here. We got about 60 seconds, and thank you for always, Doctor, for coming back. I hope that the Gaza ceasefire plan does hold, and history tells us it won't, and they're just looking for a shot. So we'll go out and ride. It's good to have
definitely.
you. Good to have on the show, Doctor. All right, as we go on the other side, a new book is on the market called First 30 Seconds: The Active Shooter Problem in America's 4 Decades of Failure. And I do want to sneak some open lines in here. 710 KNUS, Denver's talk station. Hold on, everybody. We do a turnaround. It is, and we are. Third hour. Good morning, everyone. Saturday, October 18, 2025. Good old 710 KNUS, Denver's talk station on a Saturday. 62 and breezy will be the high. 76 tomorrow, and Bronco game is on. And on back to work Monday, we got rain coming in and 68 degrees. It's good to have everybody here. But let us we're going to Zoom this. Please say good morning and welcome to the show. Ed Monk is with us, and the book is, I'll look at it this way, The First 30 Seconds, The Active Shooter Problem, America's 4 Decades of Failure to Adapt. Ed, welcome to 710 KNUS. I know you're in town. There you are. Got you on the screen. Thanks, brother. Thanks for coming on the show, and good morning.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks for having me on.
It's my pleasure. I read your bio, and I've covered many of these tragedies because they've happened here, and out of this has come one of the best friends I've ever had in my life is Frank DeAngelis, who was the principal at Columbine that day. And we just had another shooting in Evergreen, and the beat goes on. Yeah, I know you're a West Point grad, and you pulled the time, and you're a colonel, and you teach firearms training. But I love the title of the book is First 30 Seconds. Why first 30 seconds? What does that mean?
Well, Peter, if I told anybody if your stove caught your kitchen wall on fire and you put it out within the first 30 seconds, you'd have far, far less damage than if you made a phone call, called 911, then they contacted the fire department, then the fire department got geared up and drove to your house and put the fire out. If you put it out more quickly, you'll have less damage, and that's not a surprise to anyone. But we're not seeing the same thing with the active shooter. They're going to shoot at a certain rate. They're going to shoot victims at a certain rate. So the quicker we stop them, the fewer victims we'll have. The longer we wait for somebody to stop them, the more victims we'll have. So if you look at the average rate at which an active shooter shoots a new victim, which is a new victim every 3 to 5 seconds in the first minute of the attack, the only way to have a high mathematical chance of having a low victim count, and I kind of talk about that as a single-digit victim count, 0 to 9, the only way to cause that is to stop him in the first 30 seconds of the attack. And there's no way to call somebody who's not already at the attack site and get them there within 30 seconds. Yeah. So that leaves us by default mathematically with the victims he came to shoot have to counterattack and stop him if we want to cause a low victim count. Everybody wants a low victim count, but very few people are planning to cause a low victim count, and that's the change we have to make.
I think you're right. I talked about this and talked about it, and the shooter in Evergreen, who those 2 kids who were shot were rushing to. I mean, they were brave. They were going to try and stop him, and he was able to. He had a revolver. I don't know if you followed the shooting or not, but he was able to do the first 5 rounds that he shot, and then he emptied the empties. He then reloaded, fired through another whole system, emptied the empties, reloaded again, shot again, and say he got, there were people that tell me over 20 rounds off in their law enforcement, and then he put the gun under his chin for the final round. But what came out, I'm close to a number of these people who were part of it, and this is something that, you know, for Ed, that I've held back. He was wearing the identical T-shirt that Dylan Klebold wore that horrible day at Columbine. In other words, he had followed all this stuff on the internet and watched it, and something happened to him. I don't know what it was, but I mean, but he wore a T-shirt worn intentionally, I believe, from a killer who was, it was before he was born. I mean, what a part and parcel. What do you do with the people themselves? Or please.
What do you do with which people, Peter? Who are you talking about?
The shooters, these kids in school. What do we do?
Well, the unemotional approach to this is I can't explain to anybody what goes on in a dog's head when it goes rabid. I just know what you have to do with the dog.
No, I'm on your side.
It's not fun, but we have to stop these people. So I try to show schools when I go in and I talk to schools, you know, this is not a cooperative enemy. This is not a cooperative attacker. It's an evil, focused, motivated, adaptive thinking person who's coming in. You and I, when we were in middle and high school, didn't have thoughts of bringing a gun to school and shooting people, but they exist today. I wish they didn't, but they do. So we have to make adult plans to counter them because they're going to keep showing up, and we're not doing that.
I agree again. I mean, what stops a bad guy with a gun? You know the answer.
Well, the best thing is a good guy with a gun. It's not the only thing. So schools, churches, and businesses, if by law or by choice they're not going to have firearms present in the numbers that are needed, then they still have to fight. What I tell them is what we fight him with is negotiable. It's debatable. The fact that the victims have to fight back mathematically is not negotiable. So if you're not going to have guns because the law prohibits it or your policy prohibits it, then let's get the next best legal thing. And we have to fight back, because if you wait on the cops will eventually show up. Yes. And if it's still going on, they will eventually stop it. But you're not going to like the victim count as a result of that.
I agree.
You have to stop it.
Yeah,
no one wants to hear that, but the math is pretty clear.
I agree again. I see this as I'm sorry.
No, I say most schools out there in America, I would say over 98% of schools have one of two policies. Hunker down, take some evasive measures, lock the doors, call 911, and wait on the police to come stop it. Or we're already going to have a police officer on the campus, a school resource officer. But then still, we're going to lock down and let the cops, whether it's the SRO or responding cops, handle it. And those two policies or response plans work perfectly every day the active shooter doesn't show up. But it's got a 40-year history of failing on the day the active shooter shows up. Bingo. And despite that, schools still have that. If you go survey 100 schools, I will bet 98 of them have either call 911 and wait, or we have an SRO somewhere on this huge campus and we'll call 911 and wait.
Agreed.
So many schools think if they have an SRO, they're immune from this, and they're not, because I can show them 14 schools that were attacked by students of the school who knew the school had an SRO and they attacked anyway. They're just going to attack in a part of the campus where the SRO can't hear it or see it. And that's what we're failing to consider.
I think the mindset, and again, certainly not an expert, but the mindset of the attacking student is they're kamikazes. They're going and they're believing, I think, or hoping perhaps, that they're not going to survive it or they take their own lives. So I agree with you. I wonder, and this is seeing it again and again, is there, and I like what you said, I think you're absolutely spot on, what stops them, what creates them is a separate issue from what stops them. But what do you think creates them? And why did they begin in the first place, and why do they continue, I think is an important part of the question. Your thoughts on that?
I am no expert on this. There's people far more qualified, so all I can do is take a guess. When something starts that didn't happen before, you have to look at what changed to make that.
That's why I ask. Yeah.
One psychiatrist at a conference I was at, so there's basically three types. One is from the shooter's perspective, they have experienced a series of losses, at least from their perspective. So maybe their girlfriend broke up with them, their parents are getting divorced, they lost their part-time job, they're failing out of a class, they got kicked off some kind of team. And so it's just a series of losses, and they finally decide to go off the deep end. The others are psychopaths. They are just evil people. That again, I don't understand why they think the way they do, but they do. So we have to deal with that. And then the others are the psychotics, the ones that are just mentally off. They hear voices in their head. Thurston High School in Oregon, was that. But those are kind of the three different ways. But man, there's all different reasons they do it. I don't understand it. When I was in middle and high school,
that's my question.
I had girlfriends break up with me. I had teachers treat me wrongfully. I had all kinds of those negative things. But the thought of bringing one of my father's guns to school and shooting people just didn't occur.
I love what you're saying. That's obviously, and you're speaking the truth, and well said. But one of the questions that I have, and I've sat with people that have been through the experience. What is the difference between, and I'm an old man, but you're a middle-aged guy, and plenty of people punched it out where I went to high school, and there were fights in the hallway, and all those things that happen. But nobody, your point's well taken. Nobody picked up a gun and came back to school. When did that begin and why? And I realize it's Mox Nix. It doesn't matter because your point is well taken. Just got to kill them. But I'm interested in, or think about, when did that begin? Certainly wasn't with you and I.
No, it kind of started in the 70s a little bit. Then it got bigger in the 80s, and from the 90s on, it's been pretty significant. Just in the last 3 months, we've seen about 3 a month for the last 3 months.
Yes.
So 10 years ago, you might have one or two close together, and then you'd have several months without one. But where they're clicking them off here pretty quick now, it's becoming more and more common. I don't think it's going to go away, which is a more and more reason why we ought to look at this mathematically and do what math clearly shows we have to do. Even if politically we don't like it, personally we don't like it, emotionally we don't like it, we have to do what math tells us to do.
The book is First 30 Seconds, Active Shooter Problem, America's 4 Decades of Failure to Adapt. I like what you say, and I like what you wrote. We need, now, as you probably realize, a lot of teachers' unions and a lot of the school boards are anti the Second Amendment. And that plays out one way, but it doesn't play out another. What do you do with them?
Well, again, the gun is not the only way to stop an active shooter. 7 school active shooter attacks were stopped without a gun, with unarmed people.
Okay.
3 were by staff, 2 were by students, 1 was by a construction worker, and 1 was by parents, and that was at a band competition. So the way I talk to schools nationwide, I go to school safety conferences nationwide, I consult with schools. There's kind of a 3-level step I try to work with schools. The worst thing a school can do is have the lockdown drill, the cookie cutter, one size fits all. Everybody does the same thing no matter where they are in relation to the shooter. That's a horrible plan. It's easy to type and it's easy to drill. That's why they have it. So the first step is, if they're in that, is to get them out of everybody does the same thing into everybody can make their own choice of what to do. There's 3 options: fight, flee, barricade. They're all going to be bad options. So when the shooting starts, based off where you are in relation to the shooter, you pick the least bad of the options: fight, flee, barricade. So no one listens to the intercom and does what they're told. Everybody makes their own choice. So that's a huge inertia change, is to get them from everybody does the same thing to everybody individually makes their least bad choice. Once they're there, then we say, not only do you have 3 choices, but the first choice we want everybody to consider is fight. Fight is the choice everybody should consider. Not that everybody should do. Everybody's not mentally or physically capable. But these active shooters don't go out in the middle of the desert to do their attacks, do they? They come to a crowded public place where there's 50, 100, 300 people. Out of a population that size, there are 1, 2, 3, or 5 people there that are capable mentally and physically and willing to fight. So you people among the victims that are willing, please do it. Prepare to. Tell us how we can help. Because somebody fighting quickly is the best thing for humanity. The sooner somebody stops the shooter, the lower victim we'll have. And then the next step logically is, okay, if we admit we're going to have to fight and stop this guy, the goal being we've stopped the active shooter and we're already treating and prepping and possibly evacuating casualties before the first cop or ambulance gets on our site, then obviously the best tool for that, for those people that are going to fight the active shooter, is a gun. It's not the only method, but it's by far the most efficient and most successful. You know, a cop's got 8 or 9 things on their duty belt and gear, tasers and cuffs and radios and batons and pepper spray. But when they come running into a school on an active shooter call, you can bet the tool that they're going to have in their hands, and it's going to be the gun because it's the best tool. So that's it. Get them to let everybody make their own decision. Then obviously get them to prepare to fight the best way with guns where it's legal, and then where it's not legal, change the law.
You're right again.
Peter, can you imagine if a school's policy was, if the building catches on fire, our policy is, teachers, keep your kids in the classroom and just wait and see whether the fire or the firemen get to them first. Yeah. I would hope parents would go to school board meetings with pitchforks and torches and demand an immediate change and urge their kids not to follow that rule, because that's insanity. But that's what we're doing with the active shooter.
I totally agree.
And the active shooter is far more likely to happen in a school today than a fire.
No, I absolutely, one more time, I agree with the book, and I agree with you, what you're just saying about your book, First 30 Seconds. I've watched the politics of this, and I know you have as well. And you know the strength now of the anti-Second Amendment, and I'm with you. I mean, I like what you ended up saying the last time, change the policy, which means the election changes and the teachers union and everything that goes with it. And you're right. I mean, you're absolutely right. But then how do you do it? Our guest is Ed Monk. How do you do it?
Well, you don't have to throw the bomb every time.
I understand.
You know, if you make a football analogy, if you make 4 yards every game, you'll win the game. So school board elections are the easiest ones to affect because they're small and you can get to the constituency. You can make changes in a school board election much easier than you can make a county or a state or even the federal election. So parents, again, I'm not a parent, but I cannot believe parents for 40 years have been allowing the craziness, the absolute insanity of schools having policies that say, yeah, we're going to lock some doors, we're going to turn out some lights.
I agree.
But basically, active shooters, you can shoot all of us you can find until the cops get here. They've let schools keep that policy for 40 years, and we act surprised every time there's another school shooting and there's 20 or 30 kids shot. But it's actually what should happen. So one of the things they do is, I call them the boogeyman arguments. Nothing about the active shooter is a good option. Everything about planning for the active shooter is a bad option. Once the attack starts, every reaction to it is a bad option. So all of this is choosing the least bad option. So it's like if you had horrible abdominal pains day after day, and you finally went to the doctor, and the doctor said, well, you've got appendicitis, and it's bad, and it's going to bust any minute. We have to operate. And you said, well, operate. Is there any risk involved in that? Oh, there's huge risk involved in that with the anesthesia, with infection, there's huge risk. Well, I don't want to take any risk. Well, but the only other option is to die. So when you talk about having the faculty ready to fight an active shooter, they will find fault with it because there is risk with it. But it's nowhere near the risk of one of your kids getting shot every 3 seconds in the first minute, every 6 seconds in the second minute, every 10 seconds in the third minute until the cops get there. The earliest you could expect the cops to arrive is in the fourth minute. And the bravest, most aggressive, well-equipped cop that arrives in the fourth minute, their job is going to be to keep it to 25, the victim count, and not let it get to 30. Because on average, 20 people have been shot by the time the cops get the radio call. 10 or more people have been shot by the time the first 911 call is made. Because this is all about time and math, and that's what we're not focusing on. We're focusing on personal opinions and emotions and politics.
But you're spot on, but you know that you're spitting in the face of all the politics of the Democrats, the Second Amendment, and in terms of school board elections, there's a number of really interesting studies that, by and large, the people that they elect their own boss. You know, the union comes out, gets real strong, and they're usually on off days where they elect, and there's a bunch of different things that are talked about. Everything you say is true, but how long have we been dealing with this? And you've said that, and I'm going to ask you to take a break. We're going to do a break and come back, and that's the part I'm going to ask next is how do you pound that home? I think rational, reasonable people 100% agree with you, so why hasn't it happened? And that is my question to you. We come back. Ed Monk is our guest. First 30 seconds is the book. Then we got open lines coming after that. 62 will be the high, 76 tomorrow, 68 on Monday. Stay here. Open lines coming up after the end with our guest the first 30 seconds. Stay here. Thank you. Saturday morning, October the 18th, 2025, 710, KNUS Denver's Talk Station, 62, 76 tomorrow and Monday, 68 degrees. Our guest is Ed Monk. First 30 seconds, we'll go into wrap up the series, with Ed Monk. And then this, of course, is the big across 50, Peter. U.S. states are marching in No Kings, the protest against Donald Trump. Get your thoughts. David Ellis in Cherry Creek. You've heard me telling you about valuables and going to David Ellis, and get a fortune in cash and secure an appraisal from David for all the valuables you have tucked away in your home. And it's still true. And you share the reasons to listen to David. And again, in case you don't have a Rolex watch, rare coins, silver tea sets, you're just everyday guys like you and me, go to David Ellis for all the most meaningful gift-giving occasions. David Ellis Jewelers, just the right items, just the right things, just the right price. Special people that mean the most. Antique watches, emerald pendants, gold necklaces, diamond rings. This trusted jeweler and my good friend David have the buying and power to buy precious metals and antiques in Colorado for decades. Dazzling cases filled with hundreds of new and used pieces for your loved ones that they will again treasure. Gold, right now, the price of gold is way up. See David. Visit David Ellis Jewelers and see for yourself. Go to the black awning on the corner of 3rd and Clayton and Cherry Creek. Explore DavidEllisJewelry.com. He is there right now. Call David Ellis at 303-322-8779 or simply walk in. David Ellis Jewelry, 3rd and Clayton and Cherry Creek. He's got the black awnings on the corner. 3rd and Clayton, Cherry Creek, 303-322-8779. 303-322-8779. Get through that one, Peter. Our guest is Ed Monk. The book is The First 30 Seconds, The Active Shooter Problem, America's 4 Decades of Failure to Adapt. And he's spot on. Everything that he says in the book and what he said on the show, absolutely. And part of this, and again, we're talking about, he's giving you the solution, but I know you watch school boards. I know you watch school teachers. I know you watch the Democratic Party. I know you watch the anti-Second Amendment people, and you know that what you say is right, that it flies into the face of these people. Take me through how you make the change, if you would.
Well, it's been 18 years of frustration, so I would love to throw the bomb every time, but unfortunately I can't. I live for small victories, as I say in the book. So all I can do without politics or emotion or preferences is just show them the simple math, show them the history of how the rate at which past active shooters have shot new victims, and it's pretty darn ugly, especially in the first couple of minutes, and then show them the results of if they wait. If they wait, this is the result that you're going to have, and to actually plan for the result. If you ask most superintendents in America right now, God forbid an active shooter shows up at one of your schools, how many victims will you have when the attack's over? And almost all will say something to the effect of, I hope not many. They're stuck on hope. There's nothing wrong with hope, but they're in a leadership position and they're not being leaders and they're not planning. So I show them the numbers of if you wait on a cop to stop it, what the ugly numbers are going to be. And when I go in and I talk to schools, the rank and file, the teachers, the janitors, the counselors, they like what I tell them. They really like the fact that they make their own decision and don't do like when I started teaching high school 10 days after I retired out of the Army, I was told your job is to stay in your classroom and keep your kids all bunched up in the corner of your room. And I thought, this is the out of 30 years of school shootings, this is the best people with master's degrees and PhDs have come up with. The dumbest private in the Army knows if someone's coming to shoot you, you don't gather up into a group. It makes his job easier. You spread out. But when I tell the rank and file, the workers at the school, you need to make your own decision and choose what's least bad for you and your students at the time. They like that. They really like that. And I live for small victories. So when I worked with a school in Washington State not too long ago, a teacher, we did a 3-day process. And the last day, as we walk through and we talk about everybody's plans to fight, flee, and barricade. And this young female teacher had brought in a piece of driftwood about 4 foot long, about 3 inches in diameter. And she says, I had it at home as decoration. So I just brought it into the classroom for decoration. But on opposite day, which is what I call the attack day, I'm going to crush his head like a tomato if he sticks it in my door if we're here in this classroom. So once she was told, you don't have to just sit in your classroom and wait to be shot. You can actually prep your room, prep your area to do the best you can to fight, flee, or barricade. They get motivated about that. Churches, 3 times in America so far, active shooters have attacked churches when the churches had armed volunteers. And all 3 times they were shot down with a very low victim count. That's 100% success rate. It's worked every time it's happened. Right here in Colorado, Gina Som, a volunteer at a church that was armed, shot down the active shooter after he only shot 5 people. Humberto Garcia in Las Vegas shot down an active shooter after he only got 1 victim. Eli Dicken in Indiana shot down an active shooter in a mall after he only got 5. Jack Wilson inside of a church after he only got 2 victims. Pastor David George at a Walmart in Washington State shot the guy down after he only had shot 1 victim. Jay Trombley, the most recent church in Michigan, shot the guy down in the parking lot as he attacked the church. So we not only have the past math to look at, we have the victories. We have what works, what gives us a low victim count, what is proven. So it's not like I think I have a theory that possibly could work. There's a whole bunch of good people that have showed us exactly what does work. It's just a matter of having the stomach to do it. And armed citizens have never shot the wrong person while shooting an active shooter. Now, it could happen tomorrow. It's possible, and it is a risk, but it hasn't happened yet. Never. But cops have shot the wrong person multiple times when they responded to active shooter attacks. Cops have shot each other blue on blue 3 times when responding to an active shooter. 2 of those times they killed each other. Borderline Bar and Grill in California and Prince George County, Maryland would be those 2. So armed citizens, not only are they there when it starts, so they have a much easier, better chance of stopping it early, which cops just almost never can, but they have a better accuracy rate and they have a better safety record, which is right now 100% of not shooting the wrong person. So to say we definitely should arm cops that show up 6 minutes into the attack, but we definitely shouldn't allow armed citizens to be armed flies in the face of past math, past actions, accuracy records, and safety records. Again, it's emotion, preference, or politics overriding facts and history. And so all I can do is show them the math and the history and hope for a few changes here and there. But that's why I wrote the book, so it's out there. So I've got people buying it, giving it to school board members, principals, decision makers, city councilmen, so they can't say they didn't see it, they didn't hear it, they didn't know about it.
I can't top any of that. And you are preaching to the choir. The interesting people aren't the people in power. Don't hear what you're saying, and you and I both know that. And until that time comes, you are absolutely right. But you've never saw anybody stick up a National Guard arsenal. You can try to stick up banks, but they have guards in there. No one tries to rob a gun store. Why? Because there's guys in there that will do exactly what you're saying. How many people do you think it is? Say a high school, a big high school. How many men or women do you need to have trained to go and do this?
Well, you have to have enough. Yeah. And enough depends on the layout and the size. So if we're talking about a school, where I am in my city in Arkansas, our elementaries are tiny. 2 armed people would be adequate.
Stop it.
More would be better, but 2 would be adequate. One's always inside, and when the kids are out at recess, one's always outside within. But my high school is 2 stories, 4 wings, plus a field house, plus a gymnasium, plus a multi-purpose room, plus an auditorium. So you would have basically at least 2 for redundancy. Armed staff in each wing of each floor. The goal is this, Peter. The goal is no matter where the shooting starts, one of your responders can hear or see the first shot. Therefore, they can get to it quickly. That eliminates the need for a 911 call and then a dispatch and then travel time. That's why cops almost never get there before the 4-minute mark, because we have to wait on somebody to call 911, that operator to then dispatch cops to then travel there and then enter the building if it's inside of a building.
You're right.
But if someone stops it, they can hear or see the attack when it starts. So right now, Peter, we got 23 out of 26 times where somebody with a gun was close enough to hear or see the start of an active shooter attack, and they stopped it with 0 to 9 victims, single-digit victims. Now, most of those are armed citizens. The armed citizens are more successful stopping these things early than our law enforcement. It's not because they're better than law enforcement. It's because they're there when it starts. And active shooters, like most armed criminals, tend to not start their violent attack right in front of a cop if they can help it. So that's 23 out of 26 times. That's 88.4%. If 3 things are there simultaneously, a good person with a gun who's close enough to hear it or see it start, and they will act aggressively. That has an 88% chance of success. I don't know any other response that comes anywhere close to that.
And we want to go to the phones and people want to talk to you. Everything you say is true. I mean, everything. Do you have a recommended handgun or gun that people could be trained on, or is there a universality to that, or is this gun of choice, handgun of choice?
Well, it's always handgun of choice because we have preferences and we have different hand sizes.
Yeah.
But what I tell people is this, there's three people you might have to shoot outside your home. This is for the armed citizen. By far the most likely is the mugger. And then you have the riot, violent protester, and then you have the active shooter. For those of us who go armed in public, if we say we're carrying a gun, not just for the mugger, but we plan to get involved in the active shooter, then make sure you have a gun capable of that. So I have a class I teach called Considerations for Armed Responders for people that carry handguns for this problem. And so I can show them multiple times where active shooters had to take 4, 5, 6, 7 pistol hits. Eli Dick in the mall in Indiana took 8 hits and he wasn't wearing a vest, a protective vest, the active shooter. It took 8 pistol hits to put that guy on the ground. So that speaks against magazine restrictions. But usually bigger guns are easier to shoot long distance with than smaller guns. But the most critical thing for those of us carrying pistols in public is we have to know our max distance that we can guarantee all hits. Because we have to guarantee all hits. Just because you see the active shooter at 30 yards doesn't mean we need to engage him at 30 yards because we're in a public place and it's not like a gun range where there's a backstop that'll catch all your bullets. So we have to know how close we have to get based off our skill to get all hits. But it needs to be a reliable gun, and most importantly, it needs to be carried.
And outside, when those signs are up that say this is a gun-free zone, that's like I always say, it's like putting a kick me sign on this kid's back. We have full lines. Let's go to the phones. Start with Mark and Aurora. Mark, you're on the show. Our guest is Ed Monk. The book is The First 30 Seconds. You're on the air. Mark, thank you.
Hi. Well, thanks for taking my call. I'm only calling in, I think, because I listened to Alan Berg as a child. But what do you do when the cops come and shoot the guy that shot the shooter, like in Arvada? I mean, that's one terrible incident that went off, I guess.
I know that story. By the way, we just lost our stream with Ed. He's going to come back up, and I turn it over, and I'll say, please ask the question again. But I know that story, and it's a terrible story. When what happened is this guy's shooting, the civilian shoots the bad guy, and he has a firearm, and the cops see him. They get a report of that park, in that same park, and yes, you're right.
And there was no intention on that cop's
No, not
part.
at all.
I'm sure of it.
God, let's see,
just happened wrong.
How he must have felt that he had done, what used to be called friendly fire.
Mm-hmm.
What happened? We have Ed back. Hey, Ed, I apologize. We lost your call. Would Mark and Aurora ask the question again, if you would, to Ed Monk? Mark?
Well, yeah. What do you do when you get the bad situation where the good guy gets shot by the cops? It happened in Arvada, and a tragedy. But is there any avoidance of that? And what do I do with my daughter? She just became a real estate agent, and I expect her to be maybe walking into what should be empty houses and things like that. What would you suggest for her?
Ed?
Okay, first thing on the possibility of responding cops shooting the armed citizen. Before the event in Arvada, I would tell people that's never, ever, ever happened. the reason it never happened before Arvada and it hasn't happened since is it's mathematically extremely unlikely. It is possible, there is a risk, but it's extremely low. The reason the risk is low is if you're like Jack Wilson in his church and you shoot and stop the active shooter in 2.3 seconds, I jokingly say you'll be on your second cigarette by the time the cops get there. That's not the ding on cops, that's the ding on the system that brings the cops to us. What happened in Arvada, the responding cops shooting Mr. Hurley, two very rare, unusual things simultaneously occurred, like the lining up of planets. The first thing that almost never happens is cops were there when the attack started because the active shooters only wanted to shoot at cops. So he made a fake 911 call to bring the cops there so he could shoot cops.
I hate to interrupt.
And the other thing,
I'm going to put you back on hold. I got 40 seconds to the break. Mark, thank you. Folks on the phone, stay there. 710 KNUS Denver's talk station. Our guest is Ed Monk. The book is first 30 seconds. We'll do open lines. 50 states are going to march in protest against the Trump administration today, aligning, they say, behind a message that the country is sliding into authoritarianism and we have no kings. We'll get your thoughts. Stay here. Saturday morning. Step on that, guy. Saturday morning, October the 18th, 2025, 62 and breezy, 76 tomorrow, 68 and rain. Back to work Monday. Danny Kaplis, big underwriter on the show. Thank you, Dan. Good friend. Been a good friend for a long time, Dan Kaplis Law. And talking about Danny, you should choose a lawyer who, and again, shares your values, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says so much about you to everybody involved in the case. Danny's dad was a cop in Chicago, talks about his mom. He's lived a really, really good life. And Dan believed to be the only attorney in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Danny's also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. And Dan Kaplis Law, the official law firm of the Denver Nuggets and the Avalanche, and Dan Kaplis Law, a serious firm for serious cases. I talk about how Dan came to the rescue for our family, and Danny accepts righteous injury cases on percentage fee basis so he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard of ability to pay. When you need help, and it's just really a phone call, give Dan's firm a call, 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or hit dankaplislaw.com, Danny's last name, Caplis law.com, 303-770-5551. Our guest is Ed Monk, retired Lieutenant Colonel, West Point grad. First 30 seconds is the book. We'll go to Jim. Jim, thank you, and then we'll get all the websites and all the information from Ed. Jim, you're on the radio show. Good morning, and thank you.
Hey, good morning, guys. Thanks for the conversation. I don't believe, I think that we care more about those little green pieces of paper more than we do our own children. Otherwise, this would have been tackled and resolved decades ago. I would like to know if you support the Texas legislature and their legislation and the funding of the elementary schools in Texas after Uvalde. Do you support what's going on in Texas with the funding?
I know they have a Guardian program and a Marshals program. I support anything that gets more people in schools that are willing and capable to fight back against an active shooter. One, so that we can stop it more quickly if it starts, but more if it's known that we're not a bunch of roaches that are going to run and try to prevent getting stomped, but we're more like a wasp nest. If you come in here and thump us, you will immediately stop thinking of what you wanted to do to us, and you'll immediately start worrying about what we're doing to you. I support anything that does that, because if people know that, it won't stop an attack from happening. They'll just attack somewhere else. They'll go somewhere else, and I'd rather go them away from elementary schools.
I agree, and I've been inside the Jewish schools down there off of Leetsdale, and they've got an armory and they've got an entire security team, and they self-fund that.
But you know what? Jim, I'll make the point. It's a private school.
Exactly, and they can fund it themselves. That's why. That's why I don't believe
funding aside,
society cares.
No,
not funding aside.
No,
Texas
please.
Fought for the funding.
No, but I don't know if Ed will back this, but funding aside, it's a private school. It's a private sector education academy. And you then can set your own policies away from political correctness, away from the party, away from public schools and everything that goes with it. And it's just really simply the truth. Ed, I don't know if you buy into that or not.
Mm-hmm. Well, in most states, and I don't know Colorado law, in most states, it's easier legally for private schools to have armed staff than it is public schools. And cost really isn't an issue, because really just allowing current staff to be armed it's the simplest, it's the most likely to give us a low victim count, and it's the lowest money. You know, it probably takes roughly $150,000 to fund a school resource officer for 1 year when you're talking about vehicle, equipment, salary, fuel, training, retirement, everything. For a fraction of that, you could train, as many armed staff as you needed to be at or higher level of proficiency with a handgun than the SRO. But like you say, the politics is getting in the way.
Every time.
The easiest.
So it sounds. it sounds like maybe Texas made a misstep by funding the security team in their schools.
No, I think once again it's the politics of firearms that play out in it. I don't know. Ed, give him your last thought. We're going to jump to Jim the caller.
No, I mean, if you allow volunteers, that actually takes no money. I train armed staff in Arkansas that they don't get any additional money for being part of the armed staff. You know, any staff of a public school or private school that would volunteer to be armed on campus to protect all of us, they're already carrying everywhere else.
Absolutely.
They're already carrying at Walmart, movie theater, in their church, at the dry cleaner, at their optometrist office. It's just right now, before they step across that magic line of the campus, they have to disarm. So we're not talking about arming anybody. We're just going to stop disarming those that would be willing to protect us all.
Thank you for your call, Jim. We go to Don. Don in Lakewood, you're on a radio show. Good morning. Thank you.
Good morning. So I want to ask your guest, what do you think about having metal detectors?
All right, we got 4 minutes, so go to talk to.
Metal detectors help for other things, but they don't help for this. Red Lake High School in Minnesota, the shooter was a student of the high school, knew the metal detectors would be there at the door when he came in with his granddad's police guns, and he shot and killed the guard at the metal detector and walked right past it. For metal detectors to work, it's nearly impossible. You'd have to guarantee me there's no other way to get into the school, which is nearly impossible to guarantee. And then you'd have to have 2 to 3 armed guards at each metal detector to prevent what happened at Red Lake. So the metal detectors serve as a deterrent to pocket knives and the thug that just wants to carry a gun at school for status, but not against an armed offender. Schools don't like it, but I tell them if I want near school, I'll get near school. I'll go around back cafeteria, back exit where food is getting delivered all day, trash is coming out all day. Employees are going in and out of the door to take smoke breaks and play on their phone. If I want to get in your school, I'll get in your school. So metal detectors is part of what we call security theater. It makes people feel like they're safe, but they're not.
Don, I got to do a quick wrap here. Thank you. So Ed, do website, please, and how people can get the book.
Sure. The book's website is first30-seconds.com. First30-seconds.com. On the website, it'll tell you about the book. If you click buy now, it'll take you to Amazon, where it's paperback is $19.99. Kindle ebook, if you're an ebook type person, is $3.99. So it's being sold on Amazon. I also travel around the country speaking to churches, schools, and law enforcement agencies. I'm in Denver today to speak to a law enforcement conference. I was in Grand Junction a month ago speaking at a church conference. So if you'd like to hear me speak, please contact me.
A friend of mine told me all about you, and that's where it comes from. Checked on a beady and thank him. Thank you for doing the show and everything that goes with it. I'm sure we'll meet again the way the world works. Ed Monk, everyone, first 30 seconds. Ed, thank you for coming on the show. You're a great guest.
Thanks so much, Peter. It was great.
My pleasure. All right, on the other side, open lines, and across all 50 states, people are going to march and protest today against the Trump administration. Aligning behind a message that our country is sliding into a kingdom, into authoritarianism, and there should be no kings in the country. And millions are expected to turn out for this first No Kings protest. Now, the second iteration of the coalition that marched in June, one of the largest days of protest in U.S. history, and the events are scheduled in more than 2,700 locations, one pretty close to the radio station. So I'll get your thoughts. No Kings. I think it's interesting. The banner at Ocean Beach, I'm seeing it on the web, that during the No Kings protest. So your thoughts. Is Donald Trump trying to be a king? And do you believe this administration is trying to attempt to establish a kingdom? Plus, it's just open lines, and people are talking about a war with China. Do you think we are in a war with China? 303-696-1971 is the number. 303-696-1971. Load them up. Get on the show now because you'll get blocked out. We say good afternoon. We come back on the other side at 62 today for the high, 76 tomorrow. Stay right here at 303-696-1971. Now we say it. Good afternoon, everyone. It's Saturday, October the 18th, 2025. Come into the hour with one line open. Phone number is 303-696-1971. There's one line open, and you heard the weather. Low 60s and breezy. Tomorrow's a better day. And then Monday, back to work, we get rain. Americans across the 50 states are gathering, marching in protest very close to here against the Trump administration, aligning, they say, behind the message the country is sliding into authoritarianism and there should be no kings in our country. The so-called no kings riots, or no king protests, they're giving them all kinds of different twists and turns, but they expect millions of people to turn out for the no kings protest. It's the second, again, coalition that's done this. They did it once before. And in Georgia, there are at least 10,000 people have on the field now, and they're at the Atlantic Civic Center, and they're ready and preparing for the march. Reporters are there. The other one, and it's, I think, far more serious, and I was listening, and this has nothing to do with Jimmy Sangenberger. I think he's talented and an up-and-coming young talk show host, but he had a guy on the show, and they're talking about a war between the United States and China. And then I started to look around, so much saber rattling, and the United States now to consider China a war. And I came across a piece last night. Could the United States and China really go to war? Who would win? And is there something about this country we can't stay out of a war? And this one is dangerous. China is a far more complex case. They brought hundreds of millions of people really out of poverty and showing a certain, the military risk. And China is in the nuclear family. They have the military power. People believe that the United States has an edge, but this really being hawkish, saber-rattling on China, country now it's being called part of the new axis of evil. You remember George Bush's axis of evil. This is a new axis. And Russia, North Korea, Iran, I don't know. The latter three are, at least in current leadership, should be viewed as fundamentally dangerous. I understand. But war talk, China's far more complex. And the relationship with the multinationals and everything that goes with it in foreign policy. So those are two topics. Anything goes in open lines. We will start with Don. Lines are now full. Hey, Don, you're on the show. Thank you and good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Peter. And I do share some concern with you about China, and I will say Jimmy Sangenberger is a rising talker.
He's great. No, he's great. I think the world of Jimmy, but he had to get this guy on. And I'm telling you,
he's not guests on like that are going to make us think, and it's not always going to be the way we think about things.
Well, it isn't a question. Why can this country literally stay out of a war?
That I'm trying to understand. I mean, you opened my eyes to it, but at the same time, you have Mark Levin saying, hey, we may have to go to war on behalf of Israel, and, Iran still could get the weapons to make that happen.
Do you think that this country or any country could survive a war with China? Seriously, serious question. It's a strong military, and it also has it's a nuclear powered nuclear weapon country.
And you're right, but at the same time, I think China ultimately wants to be the alpha dog and try to do what the Soviet Union failed, especially when you don't know if they're going to keep Xi Jinping or they're tired of him.
Well, I don't think that's the point. I think that the Chinese and the United States, when they were given favored nation, the multinational corporations are embedded. We are their principals.
Oh, yes.
Look, get out your cell phone. Look at your computer screen. Watch television. It all comes right from...
we know this already,
no, we don't. No, we don't.
We see made in China this, made in China there. I mean, that's all I'm saying.
Well, what happened under the... Nixon goes to China, which is a pretty brilliant diplomatic move. Is it? ? So Henry Kissinger and Nixon, they begin the great opening of China in the 1970s. The United States has a law in '79 the Taiwan Relations Act, declaring that if the Chinese attack, and United States historical bonds with Taiwan, they've backed the nationalists during the Civil War, everything that goes with it. This goes back to Eisenhower. And I look at this right now. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 screens, 2 keyboards, a couple of mice, everything I got in this place, in this room, microphones, and that's limited, made into PRC. So
correct.
So why?
So maybe we should just give it up and accept our fate and let the commies finally take us over.
What's your fate? If anything happens, we know this: empires fail within.
Correct.
They don't fail from the outside.
Now I do want to. What I was trying to say before you got passionately on this subject, I'll make it quick. Jimmy Singenberger, I hope he gets a full-time talk program in the future.
You and I.
A lot. And there's also hope for talk radio when you have Eric Erickson and Jimmy Fela. Although Fela's with Fox News, he's still presenting a different angle on the things and trying to present talk radio in a way I think you'd approve of. I mean, with a little comical, and you'll say, hey, I'm not this Republican, I'm conservative, but I have a little comedy and I just want to live my life.
I think Jimmy's future is very bright. I'm talking about a guest. I'm using a guest that I'm
correct.
Listen to.
And you're going to have a lot of guests like that. Now, having said that, I want to get to the No Kings rally.
Go ahead.
And the thing of it is just basically a left-wing relief fest. You're stressed about Trump. You got to go and protest. And Eric Erickson, since I mentioned his name, is basically making it a religion.
Like we were talking, as much heat as we took for the 2 Palestinians this morning on the show, the bottom line is none of that would have happened without Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump did bring this ceasefire. And he's, Trump's been on a roll, but boy, people really, really dislike him as a president. The Gallup poll...
And Trump, while he's peace through strength, he too hates war.
Well, of course. But again, I looked at the Gallup, do without it as you may, the Gallup poll has him at a 37% approval.
Yes.
I let it go.
I mean, they may not like him as a person or his personality or his fake news rants and all that, but they like him.
All right.
For executing certain actions like the Middle East.
Take the last comment if you would.
Well, they're going to protest. You may have a chance come 2026 to bring in the Democrats and then kind of hinder his legacy. That's the thing. But be careful. Don't move far too left, or you're going to empower him. It's going to be Roadrunner versus Wile E. Coyote again, and
here we go.
The left is acting like Wile E. Coyote.
Watch the New York City mayor's job. Thank you, man. We go
Amen.
Here. This is Brian in Arvada. Brian, you're on the radio show. Good afternoon, and thanks.
Hey, Pete, I just had a comment on these No King rallies. I mean, months ago, I had a young man that I work with, and I'm a political science major, so I've had to take some con law, I had to take some civics courses, and I mean, he went to one of the rallies, and he comes to work just spouting off all this stuff, and me and another coworker just sitting there, just listening to him, knowing he's misguided in some way, and then we're trying to say, how is this a king? How's he trying to be a dictator? How's he trying to be a king? And he says all these things, but we just refer back to, we have laws, we have checks and balances, we have a Supreme Court, and they don't have an answer for any of that stuff. I mean, our founding fathers wrote up a pretty good system to avoid a monarchy again, and no one's ever going to be able to break that. But this desperate attempt to brainwash young kids and go out there, it's not going to work. But here we are, where millions of people are going to go out there, and they don't even know what they're marching against.
The clash is, of course, the First Amendment, and the clash continues. It's interesting. I have friends of mine who on both sides, and have you seen the Trump hats, Trump 2028? Have you seen the T-shirts that say Trump 2028? In other words, the next term. And there are people that want to, the FDR rule that actually was passed by the Republicans to stop anything more than 2 terms, and of all of the political pressures. Do you think any of that's real, or do you think that in come 2028 Donald Trump leaves?
I think it's just kind of something just to poke the bear at the left. There's no way that Congress is going to change the law to get him a 3rd term. Would I want him to have one? Sure. Would I vote for him again if he was on the ballot? Sure. But there's no way Congress is going to do that.
You make the case.
To change the laws.
You make the case.
So and people say, well, he's just not going to leave. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Like, he wasn't going to leave last time.
Well, because,
you know what I mean?
But they that was predicated on a lie that he actually won, which is and insanity. And I don't know where to lay the blame, but that was why he told everyone that he actually won that election. And of course, he didn't win that election. The lawsuits have proven that. What happened to this radio station proves that. I watch all this stuff, and I think to myself, he'll leave. Unless something else happens. But the No Kings people, yeah, I'm with you. But the First Amendment,
it's ineffective. It'll be a blink. It'll be a blink to this weekend, and nobody's going to care. But I just feel bad for the people that are out there. They don't even know. Read a civics book. Find out that this stuff can't really happen. I'm worried more about this China fear-mongering than I am about this stupid No Kings rally.
Well, and that's why I brought them both up. And I said this is more serious, the saber rattling towards China. Why? In the 5 times, can't this country just stop it? Just say, we need to stay.
Pete, in my lifetime, I don't know.
I do.
Know why. I was born in the Vietnam era, and we haven't stopped messing around since. And of course, it's the military-industrial complex. Of course. And China's the biggest industrial war complex. They spend more money than we do.
But remember this. The United States of America, American-based multinational corporations created China.
Oh, exactly, by buying all their products and partnering with them.
And going abroad and taking all the jobs out of Pittsburgh, Gary, Indiana, wherever they took them. And they took them and they placed them into the PRC. And they created, the PRC is now kind of junking their own brand of Maoism, because it's the one place that there are more multimillionaires created there once a week than there are in the rest of the world, because the Chinese know these things. And now they're going to, but I listened to this guy, I don't know who he was, and we're at war with China, he's telling KOA listeners. Do you have any idea how much the Chinese need us and how we need the Chinese? And I said it earlier, I've said it too many times. If you read Mao and read Red Star Over China, and I realize there's people who hate the book, or Fan Chen, or Turn Around, any of those books, and this biggest problem that Mao had, and I'm not defending Mao by any stretch, but he needed to feed people. And right now, the way the system works is we are, if not the #1 trade partner, I believe we are, but you got Western Europe, you got Russia, you got Central America. They're building what I got holding in my hand right now, phones. I mean, all that kind of stuff. They have to feed people. And so what, they're going to go, remember there was a saying about what not to do in your Wheaties. Why would they do it? Give me a reason.
That there is a We're just talking about leverage right now. We're just talking about leverage. Yeah. We're talking about who can leverage who, the boat. And Trump's, he's one of the master mind of the art of the deal leveragers. Everyone else just takes.
Yeah.
And Trump's finally saying, "Hey, let's leverage it. It's not going away.
I agree.
Let's leverage it."
No, that's smart. That's smart foreign policy. Trump's done some really, really wise things, but this stuff that I'm listening to. Imagine using a term like limited, L-I-M-I-T-E-D, limited war in the South China Sea. Do you really think that that's possible? It's not. This isn't a war in a third world.
I think anything's possible, Pete. I think when you get an irrational person like Trump sometimes who likes to flex, and China doesn't flex down, I could see something escalating, maybe not to a conflict, but I can see some posturing that could get out of hand, and that scares the hell out of me.
Trump's a business guy, and he knows when to back off. I've seen him do it. I've seen him come up to the edge and then pull back. He plays a really different game in the Ukraine, but I think with, even with the Palestinian folks that were our guests this morning, they said, hey, without Trump, there wasn't going to be a ceasefire. That's true. And then he goes on.
Well,
to
China knows Trump's moves, though. I think he's got I think he has Putin beat in smarts. He's now getting Putin to think about how he could economically, how this war is just economically draining him, and it's not a smart business move. But with China, I think they got Trump bagged, and they know what he's going to do before he does it.
I'll tell you what.
That's what. But Trump could throw a wild card in there like he always does, and then he.
These people were talking about the new axis of evil, as though Russia, North Korea, Iran, and this guy was saying on the air that South Korea will become taken over by North Korea. And all. I'm thinking to myself, where's this coming from? And why develop this? China's a very complex case. There is nothing that I'll let it go, but it's mind-bending.
There's just one thing, Pete. This stuff's not going to happen under Trump. Every time the Democrats get in office, the people across the globe get more aggressive.
No, there's no defense.
And there's nothing, and that's always going to be because Democrats are soft. And I'm just telling you, watch. If J.D. Vance doesn't get it or Rubio doesn't get in, we're going to see another conflict. China's going to take whatever it wants, and Russia's going to continue to be aggressive.
Watch. The war in Ukraine, well, if the United States gives tomahawks, you're just asking for trouble. Truly.
Oh, you're asking for a major escalation if they do that, because they're going to use them, and then you're going to see. I think that'd be the worst thing to do. To tell you the truth, is it a flex move? Yeah. But if you use one of those, it's game on, and now you just brought us into the war.
Thank you. Good call. 710 KNUS. I don't want to start a new call because we have a break coming. 710 KNUS. Could the United States and China really go to war? Do you think? Who would win? That's the absurdest question of the week, of the month, of the year, maybe of the decade. Could the United States and China really go to war? And who would win? Who could ask that question? Plus, the No Kings rally. Get your thoughts. We are 710 KNUS, 303. Lines are full, 303-696-1971. Saturday afternoon, pardon me. Good afternoon, everyone. 710 KNUS. Better believe it. October 18th. Good afternoon, everyone. I love that song, When the Man Comes Around, with Johnny Cash. Speaks to so many different things we're talking about this morning on 710 KNUS. Good morning. I got this as a text, a lot of text I haven't had a chance to read. Apologies. But it says, concerning the No Kings rally, I think it's disgusting that the whole premise of the Republican Party acting like kings is completely backwards. The Dems don't understand the definition of a fascist. They're the ones promoting and trying to elect socialists, and these people need a history lesson. It is interesting. I wrote this yesterday. I'm in a discussion on a number of different things, but let me read you what I wrote yesterday. Fascism is a term. It's a term that gets tossed around too easily. It means the corporate state, a case that can also hold up for the wishes of the far left. Corporate state. Rome, Mussolini, Franco, the Phalangists have called themselves fascist with pride. Government ownership of the means of production can be much the same. Remember, the first people rounded up by the Germans were newspaper editors and labor union leaders. Same people the Bolsheviks murdered in their revolution. Lots and lots of similarities. One thing we know, when men revolt and why they do, they never do it lying on their backs, but whenever driven to their knees or get to their knees. The well-known substance historically then hits the fan. So terms like commie, Nazi, fascist, anti-Semitic, pretty meaningless. The use of the comparison to Hitler is so rotten and foul and undesirable, standalone like him. Somehow using that filthy name lessens what he did. This text proves I got to get a life. And I put that out. But this is and I went on to say, and there was a return to me, but I said, of all the things, definitions also apply to Mao's Little Red Book, the works of Marx and Lenin, any other name, they are the same idea, and that's why they are. So we're talking about a number of different things. We go to Mike in Denver. Mike, thank you for waiting. You're on the radio show. Good afternoon.
Hey, thanks. So let me get out of the basement real quick. Sorry.
Take your time.
It'd be less echoey. So this, I freely admit, maybe me trying too hard and, as they say, being too smart by half. But a few years ago, Trump was talking about his negotiations with, I can't remember, Putin or Ting,
sure,
and said he didn't need them to believe him 100%, only 5 or 10%, and that was enough that they would have to pause and think maybe he'll do this. So with this talk about him running in 2028, right now these guys think, I'm sure they think, they only have to wait him out another 3 years and then he's out and they can deal with somebody that's more of a wuss. But what if this whole talk about him running in 2028 isn't serious, but it's just laying that 5% of doubt to where they think maybe maybe he is going to be around.
Do you believe that he's going to try to attempt to do that?
I saw an interview with Bannon, and I think it was with Bill Maher. He was like, this whole Constitution is we're going to court every day where people argue what the words in this thing mean. So everything's up for interpretation. That being said, I think it's baloney. It's not going to.
Fair enough.
No, he's not going to. Like a caller a minute or two ago said, if he ran again, I voted for him 3 times. I wouldn't vote for him again. I wouldn't play. I wouldn't participate in that game, even though I do like him. But it's bigger than that.
But what's interesting is the rule wasn't there until after the death of FDR, and it was the Republicans that came up with it because they didn't want to go through another FDR experience. So they got it down to 2 terms, and that was predicated and done by the Republican Party. Now, what I think is fascinating, it's like using the UN. We were talking about it earlier this morning. Israel was created by an act of the UN in 1948. So we jump ahead to 2000, I think it was in 24, it might have been this year, but I think it was 24, where all the members of the UN decide to validate and bring the Palestinians in as a country. The Israelis got up and walked out. So it depends on who's ox, and that's another history lesson. So there are people in the Republican Party that say, okay, we'll go a third term. We'll do it again. And
yeah, the problem is, like you said, with FDR, it wasn't written down before that.
That's right.
They had to
That's
create something.
my point.
Now it is written down.
But
there's no getting it.
But we know
we're not going back.
But hang on. But if you read what happened historically, the Volstead Act or abortion, the things can change. I'm not saying that they will, but they do. And
they do, and this could change, but you would need an overwhelming majority to sign off on it, and that's not happening with this guy. Maybe it could have happened with Obama. He was pretty popular, but it ain't happening with this guy.
Good call. Thank you, man. It was well thought out. We go to Jeff in Alaska. Brother man, how are you? Good morning. Good afternoon, pardon me.
Pete.
Yo.
Pete, how you doing?
I'm okay, man.
It's right. Our record got busted. It's raining and windy today.
Yeah, get ready.
This Second Amendment and the Ed Monk, his book 30 Seconds.
Yeah.
He's spot on.
Absolutely.
The one thing that I wanted to get in and talk to him, but that didn't happen. But there's a war on our Constitution, and the Second Amendment is what's keeping it alive. And this is going to hurt some feelings, but dead kids and dead people are a profit center for the left and the dark state that want to eliminate the Constitution.
Well,
they don't want to protect the school.
The teachers' union is a huge block in this. And you're absolutely right. Ed Monk's 100% spot on. And the people in the Democratic Party, and they usually generate the bureaucrats and school systems, and they're very anti the second. And so, as Ed Monk's pointed out, this has been going on for, he says, 4 decades, and he's obviously right, and they haven't changed it. They haven't gunned up, as was once said. So, and I kept saying to him, one of the things that I learned, and I think somebody probably maybe will say I shouldn't have said it, but I'm going to say it. The shooter at Evergreen High School was wearing the identical T-shirt that I believe it was either Dylan or Eric, it doesn't matter, were wearing on that terrible day in Columbine. How did he find that shirt? He went somehow on the internet somehow, someplace to find the identical shirt that those murderers wore. And the showstopper is he wasn't born when Columbine happened. So he became radicalized. He was a neo, perhaps. I don't know. There's all kinds of talk. But he clearly was watching the videos of Klebold and Harris inside of Columbine. He was wearing the same shirt. Luckily,
he did research.
Yeah, thank you. That's exactly what he did. And he was Klebold up. And
what gets into somebody to want to research something like that?
Thank you.
And act on it.
There it is. And he luckily was a terrible, terrible shot. He shot those 2 kids who were trying to stop him, but he had the gun I heard. This is what I heard. It's called hearsay. It was a 2-inch barrel, and that he unloaded 5 shots, dumped the empties, reloaded. I don't know if he had a speed loader. Filled the chamber, unloaded that, pulled back, emptied the chamber, loaded again, and fired that out to the final shot, and then shot himself. So what I'm told is he got at least 20 rounds off. And the guy was just a horrible shot, thank goodness. He had the short-range gun, thank goodness, but it wasn't that he didn't try. And I don't know how to say, did you catch a break? I don't know.
Yeah, a 2-inch barrel's a 10-yard gun.
Sure, but he was standing there banging away.
Yep.
Wasn't for lack of trying.
But somebody was going to get hit. And if those kids were trying to stop him, they were the closest ones to him. They got hit.
Yes, and they're heroes, both of them.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
But there was nobody there with a gun that stepped out and dropped him at 20 yards or 30 yards or 40 yards. I don't know. And yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
If he gets in the middle of the crowd and then brings a piece out, and starts turning and shooting people, how are you going to shoot? I'm 100% for having armed individuals in
Me
the
too.
schools.
But that would then
if
that
he
would
gets in the middle of them.
But see, that would be pro the Amendment. Pro the Second Amendment. If you were gunned up in schools where little kids and young kids and teenagers were, and you knew that here's Mr. Fill in the blank, the janitor, he's got heat, or someone working in the cafeteria, they're gunned up, or the history teacher is gunned up, or the super is gunned up. And what would that say about that lousy Second Amendment that we're working so hard to get rid of? And
it would send them somewhere else.
Yes, it would.
It's like he said, you're walking into a beehive.
That's right. And I believe that.
Yep.
Thanks, brother. Be safe. Thank you. All right.
We stopped our little protest up here.
You got a No Kings going on in Alaska?
Well, we were.
Yeah.
And I put a post out asking everybody to go stand at the flag with me and say the pledge and the national anthem, and they canceled it.
There you go.
They didn't want opposition.
If you were down here, they'd take you on. They'd stand there.
Oh yeah.
Watch it. All right.
I was with Lee Keltner just before he was killed.
Oh wow. Well, there it is.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
I know how that party goes.
Thank you. We're going to jump. Lines are open, 303-696-1971. Good afternoon. Jack, you're on the radio show. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's hysterical, this argument, no kings. The Democrats are the first ones to say, whenever they get one of their fair-haired imbeciles in, elections have consequences. Well, Donald Trump got elected as a result of a mandate, and that's all he's doing is he's following the mandate. But yet they turn it into a king. I mean, they're so manipulative with their words, but the problem is it's all twisted. Everything that they do is sleight of hand, the Democrats. But the man has a mandate.
Yeah.
And he's supposed to do what the mandate tells him to do. And he's got the authority because he won the election.
Yes.
Period.
Yeah. And they excuse me, but they also,
why is it the Democrats can say elections have consequences, but us conservatives, we can't say that? We're not entitled to that position. That's only a position for the weak-minded Democrats.
Well, but again, Jack, this is the relativeness of being, and it depends on who's ox. And no, I'm serious. I mean, they have that First Amendment right to go out and do that, and we so far we have the right for you and I to talk about it. And the great fear is what?
You'll get what they want to keep you from saying something that'll make sense and have somebody else's lights turn on to reason. I mean, that's what they're doing. Their war is against reason. There's no logic and no reason allowed in the liberal Democrat Party. You're not allowed to do either one of those.
But there's two. But I say that on both sides. If you're anti-Trump, the Republican Party doesn't know what to do with you. If you're anti the party line, And again, the Democratic Party has turned into a socialist workers' party, a Trotskyite group.
Right.
If you read the statements that are made by this guy who looks like he will become mayor of New York, he's a stone-cold Trotskyist. That's what he is.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So
it'll be redistribution of wealth. I mean, that's where they're all headed. That's the prize.
Government-owned stores. I mean, that's.
Sure.
I'm thinking to myself, and you're going to vote yes on government-owned stores, but they will.
Well,
and so
I didn't leave New York 40 years ago for nothing.
No, but the whole idea of that, and the using the term fascist or all this, Nazi stuff and everything. Oh, what have you read?
Do they understand how long Franco stayed in
power as a fascist. You can't get them out of power once they insert themselves.
No, they're then in the Middle East, in Lebanon, they were known as the Phalange. They're fascists, and Mussolini, obviously. But the scream of fascism. Do you know what it is?
Yeah, it's when the government takes over your business.
But no, it's when you and the government is the corporation, is the government, is you. We're all, it's like the 1984 model, but it's also 1984 is also about Lenin and the Bolsheviks, and so the authoritarianism. There is no straight line. Here's on the left, here's on the right. It's a circle. They touch, they meet, and this is the part that nobody understands. So you can scream and holler how you want this mayor to be elected in New York, but it's almost like a Christ-like. Forgive them. They know not what they do. I mean,
well, Pete, the people in New York are so stupid.
Do it quick.
If you feed them, you're going to get something for nothing. They'll vote for you.
I got to cut. Love you, everybody. One line's open. 710 KNUS. Here we go. Good afternoon, everyone. It's the 18th of October, 710 KNUS, and lines are jammed. Weather looks pretty good. I'm talking to folks. I rode my motorcycle into work, and it was cold. I leathered up, and this morning I'm sitting there, okay, go for a ride. I want to take a second at the end of the show, and we lost Jeff Hildebrand this week. And Jeff, of course, was always worked with us doing the morning show, and he is doing cowboy poetry with the guys in the morning now, and was just a really wonderful friend. And he understood this business. He was deeply religious. I loved Jeff. He was a good guy. And we've lost him. And then there's another loss that I wanted to mark, and this young motorcycle builder by the name of Chris Maurer. And he and his wife, Summer, own Maurer Motors off of Evans. And he was just one-of-a-kind guy. I have this wonderful friend, Brando, that has, I'll probably ride down to see him at Devil's Head Choppers. And he's one of those young guys up and coming in the business as well. And he's got things and ideas to do, so I'll probably see Brando in a little bit. But at the same time, Chris Maurer. And he was a bike builder. And he built some incredible motorcycles. And I was just a big fan of his wife and his wife Summer, and so he was elected to go with 15 other builders, and they were on a tour with a bunch of other people apparently following them in the tour, and he was in Arkansas and lost his life on a motorcycle. So anyone who knew Chris and folks at Maurer's, and the same thing with Jeff Hildebrand, they were special people. Thank you. This real quick text. I've been away from texting. So it's a long one. So what happens when China no longer needs us as the number one customer? That'll be a while. And then the market makes up its own mind. But this idea that you're going to fight these people is just nuts. With full lines, we go to Mike and Parker. Hey, Mike, you're on the radio show. Good afternoon.
Hey, good morning. I just drove up from the Springs, and as a Republican, I'm aghast at the number of people as I'm traveling through Parker. There has to be 5 or 7 intersections in that town when I came through that were just full of American flags. And as I listened to your show, I'm not sure that, I want to ask, how do you think the Democrats, I guess, who organized this, were able to get so many retarded people to hold American flags in the town of Parker in Douglas County?
Well, first of all, the R word. And Lincoln is shut off at 14th. That's coming from our newsroom. They've shut down Lincoln Street with demonstrations. I don't demonstrate. I've never. I should take that back. I have 2 times I've showed up at a demonstration, but I don't have an answer.
I'm concerned. I think that I'm concerned that Donald Trump is electing more Democrats now than he did a couple of years ago.
How so?
When you push things this far, you motivate people to get off their couch.
But what's Donald Trump done that would make you want to go and call him a king?
I'm not calling him a king.
I know, but I'm asking.
I voted for him, but when you motivate this many people to come and vote against you,
yep.
I mean, the Republican Party has relied on low voter turnout to win elections for 50 years.
So now, what next?
I'm not sure. Are we going to have an evil person? You know, the way we did, we had a Bush and then a Clinton. We had a Bush and then a Obama. And what are we going to have, Trump and Satan next?
That may be the line of the morning or afternoon. Thank you, Mike. That was a good shot. David in Denver, you're on the show. Good afternoon. Thank you.
Yeah, to go back, you had asked the question between us and China at war, if we were to, who would win?
It's not my question.
Well,
By the way, it's not my question. It's from the Brookings Institute that actually asked that question, not me. But
okay.
Yeah,
well,
but go ahead.
Whoever. my answer would be, well, the first thing obviously is as a world, no one. That's just first of all, because
No, it's
obviously
true.
a nuclear exchange and we're all done. But my other conclusion would be came to me after watching, first of all, the opening ceremonies of the Olympics a while ago in Beijing. I saw that, and I with my mouth open, I was like, okay, woo. And then I watched something else where I saw the military marching, and it's almost like AIs at like the same. Just the precision, the uniformity, the conformity, it's just
but
like
the Marine Corps
and
has a
then,
pretty
well-
hell of a drill team, and I mean I don't think that's the point.
Well, yeah, but let me just say, and then
Right.
you do the numbers game, and after that, I'm sorry, but after that, my conclusion was, oh my gosh, we're in a lot of trouble after watching that, and I just thought we may as well kiss our blink goodbye because, oh my gosh,
Why do you think there's been nothing but war since, I don't know, after the Korean War, in World War II, the Good War? Korean War probably goes into that same category. And then why? Is this the industrial complex, the so-called deep state, that needs a war? And actually, you would sit and think that the United States of America and China could really go to war. And the Brookings Institute did a piece, it's a commentary, and it writes, could the United States and China really go to war? Who would win? I mean, that's insanity. It's insanity.
Yeah.
David, did I lose you?
Yeah.
Did It's pretty muffled. Would you walk back to where you were and try it there? But, I mean, military strategists, the military-industrial complex, they see things very darkly. Even when they start to sound the alarm on China's behaviors and ensuring risks to American interest. No, the Chinese need us. We need the Chinese. The way that the world is operating, if the Chinese, it's absurd to think about it, but there's, again, listening to these folks, China, and it was said, we're at war with China, don't kid yourself. Why must there be war? When is that moment that comes and you say, you know what? What have you learned from the last 40, 50 years? If you haven't learned anything, then maybe you can even venture to a war with the Chinese, with the PRC. They got the nukes. China is a very complex place. And it isn't going to go like the insanity that we all watched happen and the sadness that went with it. So we come out on that. It's not a rap on Jimmy whatsoever, so don't run and go, oh, he said something bad. No, I said it was a guest on Jimmy's show, and it really kind of set my shoulders. That is it. Good show. Thank you very much. Be back next Saturday. I think we got Jerry Schimmel with us next Saturday, who just got... How do you get fired 2 times from the same job? I love radio today. But Jerry Schimmel, one of the most decent men I've ever known in my life, he'll be with us next Saturday morning as well. But watch what happens next on radio. It's going to be one of those mornings. Great day tomorrow. Thanks, you guys. Thank you very much. Good work, John. Thank you. And, of course, Adam, as always, thank you. I'll see you next week.